Welcome to. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you all on our last day of this conference. We've discussed a lot of issues in the last few days. Some of them have been eye-openers, new ideas, new thoughts. And fortunately, with the AI, we can get the conclusions of the same. I'm sure Gulrez will ensure that it's on our website. Those of you who have missed this session can see the session. Those of you who don't have the time, you can see the conclusions and action points. And that, I think, will be helpful. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome three very special guests this morning. Mr. Bhalla is the Secretary, Government of India, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy Sources. Welcome, sir. Thank you for coming. It's really encouraging when important people take time out, fly down, make the effort to sit down and share their thoughts with people who are totally obsessed with the power sector like me. And very grateful that he's come all the way down from Delhi. Thank you, sir. I'd also like to welcome Mr. Gaurav Gupta, who is the Additional Chief Secretary, Energy, Government of Karnataka, and is, as far as I'm concerned, the boss as far as Karnataka's energy sector is concerned. Welcome, sir. Thank you for coming. The third guest, Ghanshyam ji, kahan hai aap? Okay. Our third guest, who I'd like to welcome, is the Chairman of CEA, Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad, who was there at the breakfast table, but I'm sure he's going to surface shortly. I'm going to make a slight change in the program with the permission of the speakers and the audience. And that is, I'm going to request Mr. Bhalla and Mr. Gaurav Gupta to come in on the stage and give their addresses, keynote address as we go along. And as they're coming on, I want to take the opportunity of sharing with you some thoughts. We had a wide range of discussions yesterday. Some of them were a little exciting, if I can use the word. Some of them were about the gaps that are there. Our session and storage had some issues. We had some gaps in storage. We had some gaps on transmission issues for renewable energy projects which are springing up. The challenges of managing this 6-hour solar energy, which is increasing leaps and bounds, and rightly so, including rooftop solar. So what's going to happen with regard to this 6-hour surge of power, and what do we do with it? In a sense, we've got surplus power for the 6 hours, right? Or we will have surplus power. And then how do you consume that in 6 hours? So what are you going to do with it? And obviously, the issue is you do storage, right? Because mindlessly, if we go on increasing 100 gigawatts, 200 gigawatts of solar power, and we don't have a backup system to use that energy, then I think we're looking at some serious problems coming up. Another thing that came up yesterday, strangely, and I was quite surprised, is the fact that people putting on rooftops, I'm not very sure the DISCOMs are excited about it because they are losing paying consumers. And in that sense, Mr. Krishnappa, who is the Managing Director of PCKL, is here. Thank you, sir. I wonder what his thoughts are going to be when his paying consumer has got his own power and he's not interested in the grid anymore. So I'm sure, being an avid golfer, he will share his thoughts with us in a golfy manner, if I can use the phrase. The other thing which fascinated me was, and that was Srikant's comment on nuclear power and how we are setting up 700 megawatt multiples already, but it's too slow. So today in the afternoon, we're going to hear from him, along with Dr. Anil Kakotkar, on SMRs and the role of SMRs, which is a new technology, 200, 300 megawatt machines, which then give you 24-hour power, and it's renewable. So do we want not to focus on that, or only focus on solar and wind? Or you want to go in for a renewable energy which is 24/7? That is something which I think we carry forward from yesterday's discussions. The other thing which was fascinating was, and is going to be discussed today, is green hydrogen. There are various aspects of green hydrogen, and I must thank Chintan for sharing some of his thoughts. Those plants which are co-located, and that's what my speaker friend from Adani said, will not have too much of a problem on transmission. But those which are not co-located, for example, you have a 10 gigawatt or a 30 gigawatt unit in Rajasthan which is generating power, and you want to take that to the electrolyzers on the coast to generate hydrogen or ammonia for export. So this concept is very exciting to me personally, because India being energy import driven, our energy security calls for a fact that we should be self-sustaining. So in times to come, I may not be around, but that doesn't matter. In times to come, it is possible that India will be a net energy exporter. And in that sense, after we've used ammonia for our fertilizer, we have used the hydrogen for powering power plants and transport sector, we are actually exporting. And therefore, maybe $500 to $1 trillion will be, in the next 15, 20 years, our export surplus from energy generated from places like Rajasthan and the run of Kutch and so on and so forth. The challenge there is transmission, to say the least. There are a lot of challenges, but this is one of them. And the challenge of transmission will be something which we need to figure out how we are going to integrate that kind of transmission setup into the existing setup. So are we going to have special lines for green power? What are we going to do? And that's something which I hope Allah Saab and of course Ghanshyam can throw some light on. There are a lot of things we discussed yesterday which were fascinating. There were two sides. There was one side which said we made a lot of progress. And I think the session on regulation and moving goalposts was fascinating. We discussed open access. We discussed the conflict between regulation and markets. We also discussed how bureaucrats are tied up in their ability to deal with private sector effectively without competitive bidding, because the Electricity Act said so. We also discussed, why do you need competitive bidding? Is it mandated in the Act? No, you've got a 62 and a 63. But everyone is going for 63. Dr. Deo sitting here, he was there when he talked about the fact that during his tenure, if I remember correctly, they mandated that future power purchase will be through competitive bidding. And that was misused without naming the entity. Almost 50,000 megawatts of pieces of paper were signed on cost plus. And today, states like Maharashtra, Telangana, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh are paying the price. The consumers are paying the price of fixed charges, which are very high. But that was cost plus. So I think the basic concept of market versus regulation. So on the one hand, we say market forces decided we do tendering. But the same market forces are interfered with, rightly so, I suppose, to cap the price of electricity. So there is this pull and push happening, which is still a very fascinating challenge for everybody in this room who's a consumer of power or who's involved in the power sector, etc. It is a challenge because you are not very sure on which part of the chess game are you going to be. I mean, are you going to be subject to market, or are you going to be subject to regulation, or are you going to be subject to both, or are you going to be subject to nothing? For example, you have a rooftop solar, and all of a sudden, I say goodbye to the grid. I've got it installed. The government has given me subsidy. I got a small loan, and I'm very happy. If I remember correctly, there's a Supreme Court ruling which was in the context of the steel plant in Maharashtra, where they had got a transmission line from a generator straight into the steel plant, and MSEB/MSEDCL at that time had filed an objection, saying that in the geographical footprint, anything in terms of generation, transmission I'm the licensee of that footprint area, and therefore you cannot do anything unless I give you permission. Now this matter, the dispute went on, and the High Court of Bombay High Court said that you will have to study the fact that if you have a geographical area license, then anything that happens within it, including captive generation, you need the blessings or the okay of the system operator, the licensee. Now, by the time this matter went to Supreme Court, the party withdrew the petition. So technically, as per today, from my understanding, the law is that no matter what you do, you are subject to the licensee. And so if you put on a rooftop, or tomorrow we talk about electric vehicles and all, I don't know. All I know is that my lawyer friends who are also going to join us shortly, they've already moved from Lambretta scooters to Mercedes cars, and I'm sure they're going to go to Rolls Royces, making money on all the litigations that go on in the power sector. Then we discussed something very fascinating about utility scale storage. And there were some unanswered questions, and I'm raising this issue so that Bhala Sahab can perhaps react to it or just make a note of it. You have a 500 megawatt hours or 100 megawatt hour storage facility as an independent entity installed somewhere. You have the solar power, which is 6 hours, and it's surplus. It stores that energy in that facility. Ghanshyam was instrumental in releasing the notification of 2018, if I remember correctly, saying the moment you change it from electric to chemical energy, it's outside the Electricity Act. So therefore, there will be no transmission charges, no transmission losses, etc., etc., etc. Now, I am obviously provoking this because I want discussions on it. So I said, and we discussed this yesterday, that from the generation point to the storage facility, there will be no transmission charges, transmission losses is exempt. Very good. But from that utility storage, it goes to McDonald's in Bangalore. And McDonald's is saying, you come, park your car, charge your car, while you have your hamburger. My question is this. McDonald's is a consumer, and so is the car that is getting electrically charged. So you will have open access charges. Are you going to have... Ghanshyamji, you were missed badly. There are a lot of issues for you. So are you going to have open access charges? Are you going to have cross-subsidy surcharge? Are you going to have additional surcharge? Or are you going to exempt the entire chain because it's green? McDonald's also has brown power. So it's mixed between green and brown. So how are you going to distinguish? Is the power regulator going to now start regulating the electric vehicle? It says electric vehicle. So does he have the authority to start regulating the electric vehicle? Can he, Hemant, come. Can he turn around and say, okay, you're an electric vehicle, I'm going to use the battery charge in your vehicle as a part of my support system. Now that takes care of a lot of the headache of setting up a utility scale storage area. Why? Because there are 50,000 vehicles in Bangalore, which are all electric, and they've got a charge of 6 hours in them, but they're only using 2 hours. So 4 hours of electricity charge is lying in those cars. Can we work out a scheme where paisa kisi aur ka hai bhai? The car is somebody else's. I, as a DISCOM, I don't have to pay money, but I can use that stored energy. And as I mentioned, this was something which Dr. Deo would remember. We discussed it in Washington way back in 2010-11 when we went there as a part of EPI's delegation with all the regulators and sat with FERC. And the chairman FERC said, I want to use vehicles as a storage. Is that a solution? Do we have an ecosystem for it? I don't know. But these are all thoughts that came from yesterday's discussions. I thought it was very interesting that rather than discussing just the boring stuff, these are the new ideas for the future that came up. So, green hydrogen, exportable energy, India becomes a net energy exporter in times to come. Storage, very expensive. DISCOMs are having trouble raising funds. Can we use private infrastructure in the form of cars as storage? That's an idea which came. And of course, small modular reactors, nuclear reactors that came. So the moving goalpost discussion yesterday with all the regulator friends or ex-regulator friends of mine who were sitting here was fascinating, and I think there was a lot on that. So I'm going to just stop my opening remarks and request Bhala Saab and Mr. Gaurav Gupta to please join us on the stage. A round of applause for them, please. I'll request Mr. Gupta to start off his remarks, and then we'll be followed by Mr. Bhala.
A very good morning and welcome to Belgaum. Being in the state of Karnataka and looking after power in Karnataka, it's our pleasure to have you here, and thanks to Mr. Harry Dole for organizing this retreat program. I'm sure that this kind of programs will help in a lot of discussions in a relaxed setting, which is the purpose of this farm retreat. And I'm sure that you will also get to see Karnataka, northern Karnataka. I was saying to my colleague, the tri-junction of Maharashtra, Karnataka and Goa. That is the area we are almost in. And that will be a good exposure for all of you coming away from Delhi winter and the smog. To again set a perspective, we are in the center of a very high growth region of the entire country. Right from Gujarat, Maharashtra and going down to Tamil Nadu. These are the states that are doing pretty well, and a lot of developments happening. In Karnataka, this is the area perhaps which is 400 kilometers away from Bangalore and 400 kilometers away from Pune. So this was a part of Bombay Presidency. You had the seat of power in Bombay, whether it was Gujarat or whether it was in Belgaum. So just to put a perspective. And we have a Suvarna Sauda here. We have the assembly session, the winter session of the state legislature being held here. And that's the reason why we attach a little more importance to this region, and I'm sure that it has been growing pretty fast in the days in the recent days. Coming back to the power issue, a lot of interesting discussions mentioned by Mr. Harry Dole. And now, and always it's a pleasure to meet my colleague, Shri Bhupinder Singh Bhalla, the Secretary MNRE. A lot of new ideas to pick from him always, as always. Now, coming to what we are talking about, there are huge issues that are taking up in the electricity sector. What we saw was a period of lull in the last 4 years or so, in which it was felt that we need not have to add capacity. and COVID led to a very subdued demand. And then thereafter, maybe the recovery was not so sharp. But what we have seen this year is a very sharp recovery. Just to talk about the state of Karnataka, we saw almost 80% higher demand in the month of August, September, October as compared to last year. 80% is a very huge number, but that's what it was. And the neighboring states also had increase of 40 to 50%. And that led to the 243 gigawatt number which was reached in the country. And even now also we are facing the pressures. My colleague, the chief of State Load Dispatch Center tells me, yesterday we had the highest ever consumption in a single day in the state of Karnataka, 311 MUs, million units. And we are bracing up for 18,000 megawatt kind of load and consumption of close to 320. 310 we have already reached almost. So this is substantially high, and the reason for that we are trying to analyze as to how it is. In the month of August, September, we were basically beset because of poor monsoons. That was the reason for neighboring states as well, where one, we had less hydropower, second, we had less wind power because of poor monsoon phenomena, and number three, we had increased dependence on irrigation pump sets, and the irrigation pump sets consumption went up by almost 2 to 3 times. And just to put in perspective, almost 50% of the consumption in the state went towards the irrigation pump sets. And that was usually in the rainy season, we don't really have much usage. It was perhaps only 20%, 15-20%, but it went up to almost 40 to 50%. And that led to some crisis. In the last 5 years or so, we have not seen any capacity addition in the state. The feeling was that we are power surplus. After Pavgada, the 2 gigawatt solar that came up in Pavgada, we were surplus. And we were managing with without PPA, open access kind of renewable energy, solar or wind. And this has been going on. So the power purchase agreements we have stopped almost 10 years back, 8-10 years back, thinking that we don't really require power purchase agreements for the state. And that is proving to be a big constraint right now. Second, capacity addition itself has been very, very muted. Even in private sector, it has been muted in the last 3-4 years. And now we are basically bracing up that we are adding now the gas-based power plant, which was ready 3 years back, not commissioned. We are basically working for the pumped storage plant in Sharavati. It was the highest fall of almost 460 meters or so, which was the TUR for which was cleared by the Ministry of Environment and Forest in 2017, but not pursued because perhaps we didn't need it, and now we are taking it up. Likewise, the thermal power plant in our captive mine in Chhattisgarh, etc. Now, this was there was a thinking even last year that we will give up the captive mine and we really don't require power and everything will be hunky-dory, everybody will be an open access kind of thing. Generators will produce, the consumers will buy, and everything will be hunky-dory. Now, my dear friends, I have seen the worst of it, and let me say that the regulators and all the experts who are here, you have to find solutions to this, because we can't really have a laissez-faire kind of policy, free generators, free consumers, and still the state having the responsibility to manage the grid. Because when we have 6,000 megawatt in the daytime, I find it difficult. I have to back down my thermal. And we don't have that kind of moderating influence. And the night time, again, we need to step up on the thermal. So these kind of things are causing a lot of stress. The coal flexibility has been talked about, various quarters. Hydro flexibility and coal flexibility, we have been trying to work on it. I've been also interacting with Chairman, Central Electricity Authority on various issues. And we are, coupled with this, there are the other issues as well. To manage our power crisis, we had to resort to some kind of restrictive measures under Section 11 of the Electricity Act. We said that any generator in the state cannot sell it to outside the state. That has been supported by the High Court as well. We basically restricted them. We said we will buy it from you, even though we don't have PPA. And that continued. We also bought a lot of power in the exchanges, but exchanges have been shallow, very, very less power available. And whenever you have more demand, in that case, it just goes fat. Then again, bilateral swaps, etc., from other states, we are doing it, but again, that is limited. One more issue, what is there is that the inability to distribute. For example, if the irrigation pump set loads goes up by 2 to 3 times, our downstream stations get overloaded. And so therefore, we are not able to cope up. And that's the reason why we were looking at, Mr. Bhala, that you will give us decentralized solar generation, etc., so under Kusum C, so that we can inject power at that particular substation to take care of the agriculture load. And that is also a big part of our strategy. Our team has visited Maharashtra. We have seen how Pune, Nagpur, other areas, etc., they are doing very good use of the Kusum B and Kusum C schemes, which is basically tapping the solar power for generation for irrigation pump sets, either standalone pump sets or otherwise. On the green hydrogen part of it, just to put it in perspective, we are also looking at Karnataka with a great potential of solar as well as wind. Both of them has been doing pretty well. We can produce more. We are not only catering to our state, but also through the ISTS, we are catering to the other parts of the country. There have been a number of ISTS lines which have come up. Gadag evacuation and Koppal evacuation for solar, wind, etc. have been taken up. The first stage, the second stage, etc. But now we are looking at how we can go for green hydrogen. The green hydrogen part of it obviously has to come in the RE-rich area. The transmission has to happen. The transmission would come in the port, near the port, where we can manufacture. And after manufacturing, ship it. It's going to be shipped. It has to be near the port. And the transmission line evacuation will require. We were discussing the green hydrogen policy of the state yesterday with the industries minister, energy minister. So we are looking at 0.5 MTPA. So that is, I think the national figure would be, I think 5 MTPA or so. So we are looking at 0.5 MTPA. Required RE capacity for that is 11.3 gigawatt. And if we are able to level it out, our RTC, it requires at least 5,000 megawatt transmission from the Gadag Koppal area, etc., where a lot of people are putting up the capacity to the port. So about 400 kilometer or maybe 300 kilometer kind of line. Now, we are looking at how we can take up the planning, survey investigations for a 765 megawatt, 765 kV kind of line to be taken up on tariff-based bidding. So far, the state transmission utility has been managing the transmission network. We are now looking at, and we will seek guidance and support from the central authorities as well to take up the evacuation through the tariff-based bidding route also to put up capacity. So these are some of the issues that we have been grappling with. On the rooftop solar side, again, because we had surplus power, there was absolute reluctance in the DISCOMs to take up the active promotion of the rooftop solar. Now, obviously, they understand, and we have been also trying to do it. Good examples, which we have seen in Ahmedabad, etc., are being emulated. Our teams have been sent. They are working on it. There have been interesting things coming up. Somebody has come to me. I want to set up a peer-to-peer power sharing of rooftop solar from one household to the other. I said, okay, fine, you come up and we'll work at this. But these are issues also which will work. But all of this will basically add to more and more power in the daytime, and we require pumped storage, we require battery energy storage. In the pumped energy storage side, we have been We have already now tendered out 2 gigawatt plant, which was pending for some time. We are looking at almost 20 gigawatt kind of capacity to be added. For that, the detailed studies are underway. Battery energy storage, we would like more to happen immediately, almost immediately, because in Pavgada area, at least, I find it very, very difficult to augment. So battery energy storage, we have been talking also to SECI. SECI also has been supporting us on various activities. So this is just to lay out the scenario before you, and I look forward to greater insights. This is more of a learning and peer-to-peer sharing kind of workshop, and look forward to being with you and learning from you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir. You were more or less online with some of the issues we discussed yesterday, and I agree with you that we need to add capacity as we go along. Now over to Mr. Bhala, whom we believe is going to solve all the problems. You know? He has that look on his face, so he'll sort it out. Let's hear it. Mr. Bhala, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Dhaul, Mr. Gupta, esteemed seniors, colleagues. I see a lot of familiar faces. I don't know every one of you, but I must also mention here, and I do mention it quite often, that among everyone who's present here, probably I have the least knowledge of the electricity sector. So with that, in that context, let me thank Mr. Dhaul for inviting me today. He gave me this opportunity. In fact, it was supposed to be yesterday, but due to other reasons, I couldn't join yesterday, and I requested him to change it to Saturday, which he thankfully obliged, and that's why I'm here. So I'd like to share some thoughts on the renewable energy sector, which now, of course, is one of, I think, the emerging new areas in which we have to think how India takes shape. Globally, India, as you know, ranks 4th in renewable energy capacity. We are also 4th globally in wind. We are 5th in solar. And we are quite confident in the next, maybe this year or next, we should cross that 5th to 4th or maybe even higher. Our installed capacity, as you are aware, is about, in renewable energy, has increased from 76 gigawatt in 2014, because actually if you remember, wind has been there since the 80s, and in fact Karnataka and Tamil Nadu are the kind of leaders as far as wind sector is concerned. But solar was quite in a nascent stage till the National Solar Mission started. By the time 2014 came, we had about 76 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity in India, which has now increased to 182 gigawatts in January, by the end of January 2024. In addition, about 180 plus gigawatts, so 180,000 gigawatts is under implementation at various stages of implementation. Most of it will come. Some of it may get delayed, but we are quite confident that most of it will come. The context, if you see, is from here we have to go to 500, and that's what the country has announced. The Honorable Prime Minister in COP26 announced that we would like to aim at 500 gigawatt of non-fossil capacity. So currently, as we say, we are 180 under implementation, which will come up in the next few years, but we have to reach 500, and to reach 500 is a tall order, looking at the pace that we have been progressing, and that is where the challenge lies. How do we change gears from low gear to a high gear, and then shift the way that we are trying to reach the target that we have? In 500, in fact about 300, 290 plus or so, the Ghanshyam Prasad keeps re-optimizing that number. So, this is also variable, but, more or less, this is the kind of overall number that we're looking at. So about 290 plus gigawatt of solar, but 100, around 100 to 110 gigawatt of wind is the aim if in the next by 2030. Now we're in 2024. We have about 6 years to go. So each of those puzzles, each of those components has to reach the target that we want to attain. In fact, if you globally, we are doing very well. And I'm sure you have been in a discussion and you've seen the kind of response that India's power sector or renewable energy sector gets when you're interacting with international colleagues and other people who are experts. We are a very, very attractive nation as far as RE is concerned. In fact, one of the RE country attractiveness index, which was released in June of last year, mentioned India as the 6th most attractive destination for RE. But in solar PV, we are number 1 in the world in the attractiveness. And we would show and that actually reflects, we talk to developers and who are putting up plants and ask them how the world is looking at their projects. And they are, this is how the response is. And we are not surprised. Every fund, every pension fund, equity, PEs, large funds, everybody wants to invest in India. Sovereign funds looking for a slice of India's pie. And RE is one sector that is definitely looking at. And in fact, this for a good developer, getting funds is not a constraint. And that is what. International funds is not a constraint. There is a concern about domestic funding, looking at our banks, how the banks look at the RE sector and looking at how much appetite banks have from putting that money in the RE sector. Power sector has always been power sector, of course, has been looked at differently, but RE sector now has been looked at a little differently. So Indian banks they still have to, as I to use the same code, to step up the pace on financing Indians' renewable energy development. But foreign funds is not a constraint. And how are we going to reach this 500? And that's very important. And if you see the scale, how the renewable energy has progressed, just to compare, last year we added around 15 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity. Last year, when I mean 22-23, financial year 22-23. This year, 23-24, we have, our target is to reach around 20 plus gigawatt in the current year. So that's the kind of gain we're looking at. We were actually trying to make it 25, but some projects have got delayed and therefore we might end at around 20-22 gigawatts. Next year, we can't be satisfied with 2022. We have to increase that pace, increase that number to a much larger, and we expect about 35 plus gigawatt next year. But that 35 will not get us to 500. We have to increase it to 40 to 50 gigawatt every year. So therefore, last year, for a change, and in fact, a very, very ambitious move that we did, that we've announced bidding target of 50 gigawatt, 50,000 megawatts every year, with at least 10,000 megawatts of wind. And wind, as you know, has never touched 10,000 in a year till now. So our target is to do bidding of 50,000 megawatts in a year for next 5 years, and that is till 2028. And of course, the 2028 ones will then get completed by 2030. And we are doing very well. We've already bid out for 30,000 megawatts in the current year. We are just trying to now look at. In fact, many of this capacity that we are bid out are in the firm and dispatchable renewable, firm and dispatchable RE. And in fact, if we've bid out a 500 megawatt of FDRE, actually the capacity which is being set up is 3 times or more. Because that's the combination you need to provide a firm and dispatchable power equivalent to kind of thermal kind of power that can provide. So therefore, the capacities which are likely to be added is much more. And this going forward, if we are going to do that bids today and award them today, then obviously then 2 years' time, we will have this project start coming in, and therefore that is one way that we're going to do that. This is apart from the states doing their own bidding. We are not saying that the states cannot do their own bids, and that many states are being very proactive. Many states are already been doing that, and they'll continue to do that. So there'll be state bids, there'll be central bids, and apart from that, of course, is all the open access and captive. That is all separate. So these three buckets will then come together to give us that 50 gigawatts per year that we need to achieve that 500. And I must thank Gaurav, because he's pointed out a very good, a challenge that Karnataka is facing, and this is a challenge that India is facing. The kind of growth which is happening in the power sector. In fact, this year, we have seen, has been phenomenal. Year on year, every month, for so many months, there has been a huge increase. And this was not expected. In fact, we were expecting it to be a much smaller increase, but it has grown beyond what we had imagined. And therefore, there is no other way to, if you start a thermal plant now, it will take so many years for it to come up. I think the fastest ways to achieve our power availability so that we do not have any blackouts at all is renewable energy, and therefore I think it's very important for us to come together to get this done. Some new aspects that we are doing is offshore wind. It's a concept which has been tried and tested in several parts of the world. We have more than 60,000 megawatt of offshore wind across the world. China is the largest, more than 30,000 megawatt of offshore wind. Pipeline is huge. The pipeline in the next 6 years is more than 250 gigawatts of offshore wind across the world. And India can't be left behind, looking at the challenges that we are facing on the onshore, on land, and also the best sites have already kind of been taken. And obviously, everybody is looking for the best site. But the most best sites in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Gujarat, many of them have already been taken. And therefore, there will be an increasing challenge of finding the land with the best wind speed, and therefore looking at the best efficiency and the best CUF. And therefore, offshore wind is something that we have no option but to look at. We are starting the offshore wind process. There are two kinds of routes we are taking. One is the viability gap funding route, which was also announced in the budget this year, interim budget. So that's something that we want to do off the shores of Gujarat and Tamil Nadu, so that final approvals are being taken. And as soon as that is done, then we'll come out with bids for the Gujarat and then for Tamil Nadu. The non-VGF route, which is the open access, let's say we have identified blocks off the shores of the coast of Tamil Nadu. They're already been marked. So we've come out with the bids. The bid has already come out on 1st of February. SECI has issued. Please go ahead and look at it just for interest. If not, just to understand what's happening. If not, of course, developers are going to look at that. This will be the non-VGF, which means you can set it up at your own cost, and of course sell it in the open market through open access. You can tie up with distribution companies, or you can do it open access route. This puzzle cannot get completed unless we look at manufacturing. I mean, we can't say only generation and not look at how that supply chain is going to come. And again, a lot of work has been done on the solar, both solar and wind. Wind, we are already been, our manufacturing capacity is about 15,000 megawatt, 15,000 megawatt per year in India. And our current, the installations have been around 4 or 5. Let's say, hopefully this year it will be 5 plus. Next year it will be, we are reaching up to 10 and so on and so forth. But then we already have 15,000 megawatt per year. Of course, latest turbines which are made are sometimes, are often have to be, because not the turbine, but many of the components have to come in from outside because we do not have enough demand. But wind, we are sort of comfortable, except for the offshore component which will start coming in. Our offshore plants will start getting installed. The capacities will start coming up in 3 to 4 years. And that is, before that is when our manufacturers must get ready to see whether they can supply those offshore turbines and so on. But in solar, I think we have come a long way. We actually didn't have much capacities till 2014-15. And I think in the last 5 years, our capacity, solar module capacity has come up from 10,000 megawatts a year to 50,000 megawatts currently. And that's a huge increase. In addition, we have come out with a PLI, Production Linked Incentive, a scheme for solar PV module, under which we have awarded 48,000 megawatts of integrated PV manufacturing in various stages of integration. From polysilicon to module, the entire chain, we have 21,000 megawatt. From wafers to module, we have 38,000 megawatt. Cell to module, we have 45,000 megawatt, and so on. So therefore, we have the new ecosystem which is coming in. This PLI is spearheading how these new capacities are coming up. And in fact, the bidders to whom we have awarded capacities are actually looking at much larger ones because they feel that the viable size is larger than what we have awarded. And therefore, we are fully confident that we will achieve about 100,000 megawatt, 100 gigawatt of solar PV module manufacturing capacity in the next 3 to 4 years. I normally say 2030 sometimes to be on the safe side, but I'm quite confident that we will achieve by the end of 2026. So that's the kind of muscle that India will have, and because it will be, many of it would be integrated, it will be insulated from the prices which finally determine the price of the solar PV, and therefore the price of the LCOE for RE. And that is why it's very important that we become resilient. Our supply chain becomes resilient, and our neighboring, our kind neighbor does not, change the prices and therefore affect our ecosystem. And therefore, we are very, very important for us that we should become independent as far as manufacturing is concerned. Green hydrogen has been mentioned. I think you had, discussion yesterday. I think it's come up. MNRE is spearheading the green hydrogen initiative, the mission. We have a target of 5 million metric tons by 2030, but I'm very happy to hear from Mr. Gupta that Karnataka is itself looking at 0.5 million metric tons per annum. In fact, the projects which have been announced so far, when we are formulating the mission, even 5 million metric tons seem to be so far. Actually, we did have a number, but it was ambitious. But I'm very happy to share that the number of projects which have been announced, if you total them up, and some of them are for green hydrogen, most of them are for green ammonia, because that's how it's easier to transport. If you total them up in green hydrogen terms, it adds to about 7.5 million metric tons of green hydrogen capacity in India by 2030. So therefore, the industry is even more gung-ho about the green hydrogen mission and the ecosystem which is coming up and the demand coming up than what we had initially estimated. And I think I must thank the industry for this great thing. And in fact, many of the states, and especially Karnataka and some of the other coastal states in India who have always been very proactive in RE, have been very, very, taking it up so strongly with the developers and trying to resolve the issues. And I think there's no other way to get this done until each state looks at it as, yes, we want to promote it, looking at the consumption in the state and looking at, the ports that they have and so on and so forth. And therefore, it's very important for us to collaborate with the states to make it happen. Important thing is, of course, transmission has been mentioned. Mr. Dhal mentioned in the initial remarks that it's an issue which has been flagged. But what is the option? And in fact, I look at it as you were saying it's a challenge. It's always a challenge. When a green hydrogen capacity will come up either near a port or near a consumption center. It's almost, it will be unviable for it to be produced anywhere else. So we'll have green hydrogen production at the refinery for our refineries when to use green hydrogen. You will have green hydrogen production near the port for export, of course. You will have green hydrogen production or ammonia production near a fertilizer plants or a chemicals and petrochemical industries, cement plants, and so on and so forth, depending on the sector that we are trying to address. RE, of course, and in fact, if you really want to succeed in green hydrogen, it's not a question of only producing green hydrogen. We have to produce green hydrogen at the least cost. If you do not produce it at the least cost in the world, you've lost the race. Because many of the countries are already pumping in huge amounts of money in creating ecosystems for green hydrogen. Many of them are good in solar, many of them good in wind. They're putting in a lot of subsidies. And therefore, why India is confident is because our ecosystem is good. We have a good solar irradiation. We are good in our RE is one among the lowest cost. We have a huge industry which is very capable. We have an ecosystem, the states are proactive, and therefore we are very confident that we will be able to produce green hydrogen at one of the lowest costs in the world. But for that to happen, the RE has to be, of course, at the place where you can get the best, the most energy. And therefore, you have to allow these plants to set up RE capacities wherever they find is the least cost RE. And it will be mostly captive. It's very difficult for a plant to survive on a regular thing on open access. Not possible. So it has to be a captive for the huge capacity which is coming up. Gupta mentioned for 500,000, they are looking at 11 gigawatts. Our estimate is for 7.5 million, which has so far been announced. And depending on what the companies have indicated, this capacity of the total RE capacity which is to come up is supposed could be around 80 to 120 gigawatt. We had initially estimated that we need about 125 gigawatt for 5 million. But I think the overall numbers are slightly lower, I understand. Now, 80,000 megawatts has to be transported. It has to be put up somewhere the best parts of the country where you get the lowest LCOE, bring it down to wherever the consumption center is. So we have no option but to create the distribution network. But I'm happy to share that this work is already on. We have discussed with each of the developers. We have told them, you tell us where you're putting up the plants. We will help you put up. We will work on getting the transmission capacities depending on the states. All that has to be done. It has to be micromanaged if we really want green hydrogen to succeed, and that's what we are doing. So we have asked the green hydrogen developers to share where their capacities are coming up. We will also need connectivity not only where the RE is coming up. You also need additional connectivity at the point of consumption. So that link also has to be tied up. So we asked for both, and based on the numbers which they are giving, we are now sharing it with CTUL, and that is how the capacities are coming up.
Can I ask you a question, Bala sir? A lot of people are very excited about the new scheme that's been announced for rooftop solar. So are you going to fund it?
I was coming to that.
Oh, lovely.
Thank you. So just to round up the green hydrogen, we are funding green hydrogen production. We are giving out the incentive. We've already awarded bids to 10 producers for 412,000 metric ton of green hydrogen, where incentive has been built in. Electrolyzers, 1,500 megawatts production per annum capacity has been awarded to 8 companies. And we need electrolyzer first so that our plants can come up. Of course, they can also import if they want it in the beginning. We are also setting up green hydrogen production capacities through the refinery route and for the fertilizer plants. So that's something that's all we are doing in the green hydrogen. On the rooftop solar, I think, thank you for raising that. You said that in your initial remarks also. I believe we had a lot of discussion yesterday. We have been slow. You will agree. I think there's no way that we can deny. Our target was 40,000 megawatt. And we are currently, to put everything together, the numbers that we have is about 10,000 megawatts, 10 gigawatt. Even if you add the behind the meter kind of estimates that we have, because those numbers are actually not available with us. Those can only be it's something which is not even reported sometime. Only some of the distribution companies may know about it. We do not have that. Even if you take the numbers which some of these companies, the research companies are looking at, you don't get beyond 11 gigawatts or 12 gigawatts. That's the outer limit. That's the total rooftop in India. We were supposed to reach 40,000 megawatts. That was our target we set in 2015. So obviously, we need to change gears. Obviously, we need to do something different. And what is all we want to do? Of course, we have a rooftop solar scheme. Honorable Prime Minister announced the other day that we are launching a new scheme for covering 1 crore households. That is a huge challenge again. This is the same thing which was done. In fact, I must say that we were in 2015 before that National Solar Mission, and then we had a target of 20 gigawatt, and that 20 gigawatt got upscaled to 100 gigawatt, and by the time we started reaching there, that 100 became 500 as overall number, a non-fossil. Similarly, but we will get there. Rooftop, we had 40,000, and now we see that there's a problem. Obviously, it hasn't worked, and as I mentioned, distribution companies have concerns on whether it will be problematic, whether they lose the best customer. So therefore, it has to be a win-win. We have to change the paradigm a bit to make sure that concerns are addressed in some way. So now we've announced a big number of 1 crore households. Till now, we have covered 5 lakh under the existing scheme. Started in 2019 and put all the numbers together. We don't have more than 5 lakh houses covered under rooftop solar. From 5 lakh, now we have to jump to 1 crore. And obviously, it has to be done yesterday. These are numbers which can't say, we'll do it in 10 years. No.
Sir, is there any capacity that you can get the solar rooftop?
Yeah, so roughly I will tell you, the numbers that we've worked on could be about 20 to 30 gigawatt, depending on your estimate of what size of.
No, I'm talking about individual household. What is that capacity, sir?
Yeah, so the current scheme, we haven't come out with the new scheme yet. We have only announced it. We're just working out the final numbers. Current scheme is, we have subsidy of 40% till 3 kilowatt. And then you have telescopic subsidy. So from 3 to 10, beyond 3 to 10, we give 20%. So for a person who does 6 gigawatts, gets 40% for 3 and then 20% for the balance 3. Similarly, but we are just trying to work the final number. So that will come
do consider
so there will be.
Do consider 100%, sir, if you can.
Sorry?
Consider 100% grant.
Thank you so much. I wish I had the money to do all that. But the fact is that, so we have to do something. So we have announced a big number. Now we're working on the implementation plan. We're working on, of course, on the subsidy part, how we can improve it or tweak it and make it easier for consumers to get it, while also addressing the DISCOM's concerns. We have to look at the entire ecosystem. But look at some of the technologies that we are doing. I mean, our national portal, which was launched in 2022, has been upgraded recently. I don't know whether you had a chance to look at it. We have changed. We are trying now in improving it to the extent that, looking at how the private sector companies are doing. So we are trying to bring in ease for installation for the customer. We have a calculator there. You can go ahead and calculate how much of energy you can generate. You have, what all documentation, how do you improve it? We have improved the registration part. We've simplified it. We're reducing the documents which are needed for installation. We have done all that. In fact, very, I'm in Karnataka, so I must mention that. C-STEP has done a very good work on mapping the rooftop of Bangalore. Bangalore, all the roof, they've done an aerial survey of entire Bangalore. They've also added for 4 other cities in Madhya Pradesh. So 4 cities of Madhya Pradesh plus Bangalore, they have a roof mapped exactly, GIS map. So we've added that to our national portal, which is again unique. So if you are from Bangalore and you go to a national portal, it will recognize you are from Bangalore. And then it will ask you whether you want to check how much of capacity you want to, to help you decide what capacity of rooftop you should put up. You click on it, it takes you to your roof. Because the C-step is, the data is linked to your consumer number. So you have the roof mapped to a consumer number. It takes you to a roof. You say, yes, this is your roof. It takes you there and you say, yes, this is my roof. It gives you the number. It looks at your 12-month data. It's already, fix it up, shows you your 12-month consumption data, and then say this is the capacity that you want to do. This is currently already live for 5 cities. We're adding 5 cities in this week, another 5 cities. And now we are asking C-Step to go ahead and do this. And C-Step and getting this done, how to use data crunching, getting maps and so on and so forth for the entire country. In addition, now going forward, how are we going to use it? And that's where I would just want to mention, it's important for you, some of you, every rooftop which is installed will be mapped to our national portal, which we will have all the lat long. Every rooftop will have lat long. It will have the attributes of how much capacity has come up. All of that we are going to add to this layer of roof, new layer of GIS layer of roof in India that we are creating. So we'll have one layer. We propose to do that in the Gati Shakti portal. We'll have one layer of roof mapping across India, which will have, and the rooftop solar which is coming up will start getting mapped on it. Now, look at the power of it. I mean, I'm just looking forward. I'm sure that many other bright minds will come up. That layer will be available for distribution companies to look at and say, okay, this is what is happening in this cluster. This is what is happening. You can still do it yourself, looking at what's coming up. But now you'll have technology to help you decide, what is the distribution, which part of the distribution you want to supplement, configure, or maybe okay, now we do not require that augmentation which was proposed. And that's the technology, use of technology which has come up. And I think that's going to be, I think going forward, this will be very important for success of this program. I think I'll stop here because I see covered I've taken a bit of time, but I'm happy to answer questions or share thoughts during the course of the day. I think we have very interesting sessions and you have very good speakers. I wish you all the best and look forward to discussing with you during the course. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Round of applause. Sir, can I ask you a question now? Can the state DISCOM in some way block this rooftop business? Yeah.
You want it? You want the blocking or you don't want the blocking?
No, I am not the DISCOM. I'm just saying, can a DISCOM...
Let me speak for the DISCOM.
Sure.
Let me speak for the DISCOMs. The DISCOMs have concerns. However, if the concerns are met or there's some kind of dialogue, etc., I'm sure that nobody would like to block. The basic issue is there's a hesitancy. There is you need to reach out to the DISCOMs also at the ground level if you want to make it a mass movement. You can't have an isolated 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000 households having solar. You want to have every 10th household having solar. Now, if you want to have every 10th household having solar, in that case, it has to be a movement in which they have to be involved and onboarded from day one. I don't think that exercise has happened as yet. So I'm sure that there will be solutions that will be found. But that's an excellent idea.
Great. I think it's a great idea. Any questions for the... Yeah, sure. Microphone, please. Anybody else? We can rush the mic to you. Yes, Soni Saab. And then Verma ji. Okay.
Mr. Bhalla, sir, you had covered the renewable energy sector in a beautiful way. The wind, the solar, the biomass. I have a question on the energy which is there in the ocean given by God. There are two types of energy in the ocean. One is the tidal energy and one is the thermal energy, the difference of temperature between the surface and the bottom. I had heard some time ago that there was a pilot project somewhere in Gujarat for harnessing energy from ocean. Now, is there any plan actively pursued by MNES on harnessing energy which is in the ocean, which we call blue economy? Any such plan? And what is, because I'm told that the Scandinavian countries, there are a lot of the energy produced from the ocean.
Thank you. A couple of pilots are going on in India, but they're very small scale. Looking at we have an R&D program in which we fund different, innovations and research in different fields. So under that we are taking up. But on a commercial basis, at the moment, there is no plan. But I think the first thing is to do on a pilot basis, which is successful. If it is successful, then we will look at scaling it up. And I mean, I look at it, and in fact, you would realize that the name of our ministry is not Ministry of Renewable Energy. It is New and Renewable Energy. So I have, right from the beginning, and I joined, and I've said that we cannot leave the new part. We must try to see what all is happening in the world. In fact, all the discussions we've had with many of the international partners, I've always said, if you give me your expertise on any new thing which is happening, and then let's look at that shortlist, 10 of them. Why only ocean, for example? Let's shortlist 10 which are suitable for India, do pilots on 8 or 10, and then maybe choose 1 or 2 or 3, whichever is coming. And then we start now. Only then, 5 years or 7 years from now, we will start commercial at some scale.
What about the waste heat recovery-based power plant? Is it a part of the renewable energy? Waste heat recovery-based power plant.
Waste to recovery.
Are you taking it as a part of renewable energy, or is it something taken under conversion?
No, waste heat we don't do. Actually, we do biomass to energy we do. In fact, biomass, there's also been divided somewhere. If it's municipal waste, now it's Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs does it. So there's some divergence there, but that we don't accept.
My submission is to Mr. Gupta, Additional Chief Secretary. So you very nicely explained about high load growth, good. You have PSP, Sharawat, solar, wind, 5 years of no, and all these things you have very nice started. Now the question is, I'll give you 3 numbers, and then reflections on that. 18 gigawatt load you have to meet, Karnataka. You have 5 gigawatt of GNA, and you have only 3 gigawatt of total transfer capacity. All the uncertainties which are there, Karnataka is clearly showing a telltale sign of future problem of congestion. Even if the whole country has power, you will not be able to import. It is less than 20%. And the country average is 50%, and good states have around 70%. I just wanted a reflection on this.
Do we ask our sectoral experts, Mr. Krishnappa? Mike.
Sir, as far as the Karnataka state grid is concerned, in the previous 4 years, we were in the trial position. So, as per the Ministry of Power and CE has analyzed that, as per the reference of trial, it is around 4,632 gigawatt, when megawatt is given to as a GNA. For that, we are planning to go for 1,500, which is already under discussion. To an extent, we are expecting that RE is also. Right now, the 6,000 megawatt is existing in our daytime, that is with RE integration. And right now, we are availing TGNA also to balance this GNA quantities.
Yeah.
My only thing to the policymakers is that all these numbers will put the state in trouble unless you have 9 gigawatts, at least 50% of your demand, the transfer capability, and that kind of a transmission must be built. This is what operator's experience I am sharing.
Absolutely. I concur with you that we need to increase the GNA and we need to raise it up, as I think Mr. Krishnappa mentioned. We are raising it up to 6, but we may have to raise it further to 8 or 9. What does it entail? What does it entail? How it will be done? What kind of transmission capacity augmentation will be necessary? Financial issues, etc. would be there. Those we will look at. But this has come to my notice very recently that, yes, we have limited capacity to import-export.
My question is
Adding to the SARS points, we are planning for a future plan that wherever the problem arises, like North Karnataka, we have some constraints. Where 33 kV networks is existing, where the 110 kV and 200 kV it's all overloaded, augmentation has to take place. For that, we have already drawn the roadmap. We have planned to go for with an investment of more than 7,000 crores for this network.
Soni Saab, a quick question. This 9,000 is n-1, correct?
And although the detailing.
No. I'm asking was capex will be accordingly, na?
See, at this high level to the policy makers,
Yes.
my submission is don't get mixed up with all these numbers. Life is full of uncertainties with hydro, with agriculture, with roof, the solar and wind. You must have import capability of at least 60% of your state if you want to give good supply.
So the transmission...
This number,
Boss,
this
understood.
number,
My question is, this 9,000 or 10,000 megawatt capacity is n-1, na? So the capex will be double.
Not
Nahin.
exactly. Those are
Okay.
all, yeah.
Okay. Verma ji.
my question is to Bhalla Saab. One is, at what price are you targeting for hydrogen, green hydrogen per kg, number one? And number two, the solar rooftop. The states are announcing their own schemes like in Delhi. It would interfere. How are we going to tackle this situation?
Could you repeat the question? One, green hydrogen?
One is the price of the green hydrogen. What is the target
Price.
per kg? Another is solar rooftop scheme of the Honorable Prime Minister and the state like Delhi. He has also announced that you put a solar rooftop and all the electricity is free and all. How are we going to tackle such situation?
Yeah, thank you. If you look at the world's target of the cost of what we want to achieve, I think US is looking at $1 per kilogram of hydrogen by 2030. One of the Indian companies has also announced a target of reaching $1 per kilogram of green hydrogen. We as part of the mission have not announced a target for the pricing. We have not announced a target. We are working with US as well, collaborating with US as well for reducing it to the minimum amount. We have not announced a target. We are quite confident that we would reach close to it. We don't know whether we might achieve $1, we may not achieve, but we should be able to reach close to it. A lot of things will need to happen to make it, to allow it to reach $1 or near about. Since renewable energy cost is 70%, 65 to 70% of the green hydrogen production cost for 1 kilogram of hydrogen. So can we, improve it on taking so that it takes less units of electricity to produce 1 kilogram of hydrogen? So similarly, one is the RE cost. So the RE cost should not increase in any way. It should reduce to the maximum we can do. There are then interstate, there are many charges which many states impose on additional charges which come out. One is not generation cost, but actually when it reaches the consumer, it takes, there are many other charges. So can those be reduced in some way for green hydrogen if you really want to take it up as a challenge and becoming one of the world leaders? So RE cost has to reduce, the electrolyzer efficiency has to improve, and the balance, the 30% which is the production, there again improvements have to happen on the storage part, the production part and so on. So R&D is very important. We hope to achieve $1, but we don't know. We could be 1.2, we could be 1, we could be even lower if really things work out. But that's the kind of price which is possible.
The additional RE capacity would need to be installed.
The additional RE of production, all that is included in that. Everything is included in that $1 that we are looking at, because it's a one captive way of producing it. It may be in 2 locations. That's fine, but overall cost. Second, many states have their own scheme. For example, UP gives extra subsidy, Goa has extra subsidy. Delhi has announced some, generation-based incentive, and so on and so forth. Now they will not be substituting what we are doing. They will be kind of adding to what the national subsidy program would be giving. So then consumers in some parts of some states may get a better deal because the subsidy is higher. But again, it all depends on, actually, if you look at the numbers, since many of you are regulators and you've seen how the prices vary across states. And every state, if you look at what is the average cost for a average price for a consumer in different segments, it all varies. In many states it's subsidized, in many states it's different. So every state, it will play out different. So when we're looking at a particular state, each state at a time will have to see what's the national subsidies, what the state subsidy, if any, and what is the tariff at which the consumer is paying. And based on that, the consumer will decide.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? A round of applause for this lovely panel discussion. Thank you so much, Secretary Sir, Balla Sahab. Thank you, Mr. Gupta. I'm going to invite you now to be a part of the audience and hear the feedback. Soni Sahab, your session now. Let's go. May I request Mr. Soni, Alok Kumar ji, Chintan Shah and Satyajit Ganguly to discuss power markets and financing the power sector. So we are now looking at the power markets. How will GNA and market coupling impact the power sector? Hot topic. Soni Saab is going to share with us the scintillating details of market coupling. And of course, Mr. Ganguly coincidentally is in the same session, and he will then be a part of the, what should I say? It's going to be part of the feedback, running an exchange. Alok Kumar ji is fresh from the Ministry of Power with all the data, information, in the inside story. I don't know how much he'll share. And of course, over to you, Soni Saab. You're chairing this session, by the way.
Mr. Alok Kumar is chairing.
Mr. Alok Kumar is chairing. Okay, great. That makes life easy for me. He's a very strict disciplinarian, so he'll keep everyone under control.
Are you expected to invite Balwant Joshi for this session?
Yes, where is Balwant Joshi, by the way?
May I request Balwant Joshi to come?
Mr. Joshi, he got his voice back, right? That's why he didn't have a voice, that's why he got knocked off the program.
He's not here, okay. So, thank you. Let us begin. I am really very happy to have this distinguished panel with me. Mr. Soni is a stalwart. All market design and grid operations, we had worked together when I was in CRC and he was in the POSOCO. Chintan Shah, I think, is a stalwart in renewable energy. We will discuss a lot. And of course, Mr. Ganguly is running a power exchange. So friends, some questions have been given to us by IPAI, Mr. Dhol. I will take a few minutes to give an overview, then we'll ask our panelists to chip in, and then we want to have more time for the question answer session. Let us look back and see what all we have achieved. We have achieved a lot in terms of market development. The top headline is the transmission system which India has built, and one single transmission grid is the backbone of the electricity market, which we have come a long way. And coupled with the transmission system, the GNA is the next second generation reform in power markets, that generators can access the grid the way they want, every day changing, every day they can select a new customer. So earlier rigidities in terms of transmission constraints, and you have to select your client, your customer, they have all gone. So these two are the major foundation work we have done in India, and the whole world is looking at it. We have now well-functioning power exchanges. We are proud of the power exchanges, the role they are in. The two more development have happened in the last few years is the SCED is one attempt towards the optimization of costs. So it is halfway, it is like hybrid. We are trying to do something to optimize the cost, not full-scale MBED. And I'm sure that deep procurement, it is not so talked about in this conferences like this. Deep procurement is also very good because it has enabled more certain short-term procurement for DISCOMs. So far, but what are the issues we need to address when we sit down for reviewing India's power markets and their future shape to come? The issue, the most criticized issue is the market that we have long-term PPAs. They say long-term PPAs criticized because they make the markets, short-term markets very limited because 90% energy is tied up in the long-term PPA. I have been thinking over it and I feel because of the uncertainties due to energy transition, the developers will require long-term PPA more and more in future than they were requiring in the past, because the future visibility of prices, what will be prices after, what technology will come is not sure even after 7-8 years. So developers will not come forward. We had several meetings with MNRE. They will not come and invest without long-term PPAs. That is going to be there. So that is the boundary condition. Second thing, the scenario of the DISCOMs, we had several discussions. We had a Karnataka intervention. The demand pattern, its growth and sudden changes because of weather and hydro and all, it has all gone topsy-turvy. So DISCOMs they were earlier very conservative in letting their generator to sell in the exchange. My feel is that they have become even more conservative. We were discussing the national MOD proposal in the ministry, and our colleague from Punjab, he said, I have done that long-term PPA. I don't know what will demand after 8 hours. And if I let him go to the market to sell the power, what will I do if the power is expensive? I don't get it. So I will not let him to allow to sell in the market till the last 1 hour. So where is the market? Because DISCOMs are not only having long-term PPAs, they are sitting tightly on it till the last 1 hour. So where is the capacity which can go to the market? So those things will be even more aggravated because of the larger renewable energy share. Because of the variability of renewable energy, the DISCOMs will have this dilemma on a larger scale. So we have to deal that how to work with the states, let them convince that if they want a more certain dam, they will have to allow the market to go, allow the power to go to market, not like Section 11. Because it is a chicken and egg. If every state wants a protectionist that it is my power, I will sit over it, there will be no market in India. And you will then complain that dam is not certain, I don't get power there, my bids are not getting cleared. Another issue is fuel markets. The power markets have reformed, but in India, coal markets have not reformed. So let us hope that in the next 3-4 years, because of commercial mining, we will have well-functioning coal markets. Because a lot of merchant power plants and IPPs, they complain that we are supposed to participate in the market and bid, but I'm not sure of my coal supply. Coal India gives the coal supply tied to PPA. So again, there is one more handicap for the market development in India. And of course, the last thing which I've been discussing so thoroughly is the difficulties in getting open access from DISCOMs. Who will go to the market? There will be DISCOMs, of course, will go, but large consumers are not able to go to market because they are having difficulties in getting open access from DISCOMs. So these markets are functioning in such a scenario that we have to get over these shackles and barriers to a proper market development. I feel there are two key principles or key objectives which you have to keep in mind. A market design which takes care of the new capacities to come. So we will have to work more on resource adequacy so that we have enough capacity. And your market design is not just short-term power market design, it is a market of the long-term power also. So we have to work more for resource adequacy, PPAs and capacity contracts. And second objective which we are desirous is to have the least cost power procurement through market-based efficiency. And that, in that direction, we are moving to SCED or SCUC or market coupling or MBD, whatever. Our desire is that we have enough capacity in the market in terms of PPAs or capacity contracts, but the actual scheduling and purchase going forward will happen more and more through market-based clearance. Initially, some shadow pilots for market coupling, and the desire, I think, collectively is that we go to MBED. So we have the capacity tied to PPAs, but actual purchase happens in market, which are enough liquid. So discoms are certain to get power from markets. So I'll stop at this point, and I will first call upon Mr. Suni, because he has been thinking and working for this market coupling, and he's a futurist, and so I will ask him to tell us something about the question about the GNA and the market coupling. What will the impact on our power market development? Suniji.
Thank you, Mr. Alok Kumar. Thanks, Ipai. Thanks, Mr. Dhal. Such an exalted gathering. You know, I can see all my mentors around here, Mr. Rakesh Nath, Mr. Bajaj, Dr. Dev, Mr. Verma, Garg, all of them. And of course, Mr. Alok Kumar himself has been there. And I see a lot of states, and on this table I see a lot of policymakers, Mr. Balla, Mr. Gupta, Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad. What a pleasure it is to talk on at this point of time. So I am a rustic power system operator of India, hardcore practitioner, but read all the theories. So the questions which you have put, I have just put 30 points, which I'll try to go in very fast forward mode. First of all, evolution. And you very rightly said, we take pride in our country's power system. Not something small which has been achieved. There's a lot to talk about it. In praise of Indian power system, that's a separate aspect. Our base is very strong. Our pillars for scheduling, for deviation, for congestion, for ancillary, for transmission charges, for losses. These are fundamentals. Whatever market design you may take, RE, hydrogen, capacity, ancillary, you need these fundamentals. We need ecosystem to be created first. And this ecosystem at the state level is an issue. It is a topmost in the agenda that something has to be done at the state level. Multi-part tariff, single-part tariff, net pools and gross pools are the issues. Yesterday also I mentioned, one of my concern is if renewable 500 gigawatt has to be added, is single-part tariff good enough? Single-part tariff is prone to manipulation, is unstable by design, it's not a robust thing. So if you want to go, we must move to multi-part tariff. And that's how the market also has to be thought through. Someday, renewable bidding will be multi-part tariff. Again, coming back to ecosystem, we need infrastructure, we need institutions which will take things forward. Lots of orders comes from ministries and CA and regulatory commissions. What is missing in those, and let me be very candid about it, is how will that be translated? FARC order 888 was very famous, but there was a parallel companion order called 889, which gave resources, which gave the every detailing, and that is missing in our country. We need to work on that. Now let me come to power market. How do we ensure integrity and probity of the whole system? Everybody is selling, everybody is buying, who will pay to whom at the end of the day? And when it will go through the audit, how do we take care of that? It's a challenge. Accounting and settlement as a faculty has to be developed if we want deeper market. Why should settlement be part of the exchange? Settlement corporations are there everywhere. We are thinking of 4 lakh crores per year of accounting and settlement in market. It can be done by engineers who only maintain the table in single entry. They don't even follow double entry systems. So that's a serious concern. Now, let me come to this, that The whole market design is a Lego set. We can't borrow from anywhere. We not to build our own thing. We have small items known, and like a child, everybody builds its own Lego system. For our country, we have to build. Forget about a right model. There is nothing called right model of market design. It's a Lego set, and gradually we have to build it. Take country context seriously. When MBED was announced, the country context has not been taken. An outsider cannot tell us how we will move. So I am very serious about country context being taken seriously and state context also being taken seriously. Our 30 variety of states, all of us know about it. Let's avoid common fallacies. Experience elsewhere where they have failed, let's not repeat it. Timeline is essential. There has to be a realistic timeline when we want something to be implemented. Market rules need to be transparent, fully documented. We all say that a market is working, but if you search out what is the engine, how does it work, has it gone through audit, where is the market monitor, we don't have. I'm not being very critical about it, but what I'm saying is that if you have to ramp up to that level, then these ecosystems are essential. The other point I will pick up from Mr. Alok Kumar's power market is not power exchange. Power market is a big spectrum. Power exchange is a very small component of it. We have been successful in that, but we can't bask in glory that we have achieved power market. Power market has to be from hour to decade. We need capacity market. We need reserve market. Energy only market. All of you know what happened to Texas and in the future. So that's another part. We must avoid fragmentation. But policymakers, as expected, are in hurry. They are impatient people. They want delivery. And hence, they get into fragmentation. It's a natural thing to happen. So while they do this, some people have to think of integrating them again. Fragmented things have worked. Now let us get back and couple. That's the basic theme which I wanted to convey. Section 62-63. Mr. Alok Kumar has been there for this. I have been also associated. Section 62-63. The ontology and epistemology, that's the problem. We are so engrossed in ontology that epistemology is forgotten. Why did 62-63 came? And at that time it came very nice. Something regulated, something under market. But has Act said that there cannot be anything called 62.5? Is they have to be so watertight compartment that country will lose? We have to think, we have to challenge that. That yes, 62-63 is fine, but we can have a pipeline between 62-63 also. Because our target is, as you have been yesterday telling, investment. Our targets are huge and this agility has to be there. And I have read Act, I don't see there anywhere they have said that you cannot have between 62-63. Few more points. Federal structure. That's something I read Rajadhya committee report in 77 when I joined the service. And the states' freedom, choice has to be respected. That's another problem which normally is happening by the institutions which are at the central level. Because you can't something dictate them and then they will not follow. Their levels are different. So the long-term vision on that. Centralized versus decentralized. This is a great topic, particularly by academicians. But I'll come down to...
Yeah, may I request you to... No, it's very all useful. The key thing is in a federal structure, when the state discoms or PPA, how do you see the roadmap leading us to full-scale MBED later or sooner?
I will come to that.
I think that is the most interesting thing which I want you to respond.
Absolutely, absolutely. So in the country, If somebody thinks that everything will become centralized, you are not practical. You cannot do this. So states have to be given their freedom. They will do it. We must respect them. But yet, the challenge remains that how do we achieve that overall efficiency? We have American models, we have European models, but Indian model has to be that we will have decentralized base and a thin layer of centralization, which will achieve everything what was missed because of the decentralization. And the point which you were also making, we allow the states to do it and then give them a platform where all the uncertainties, temporary surplus and deficits are exchanged. And that is what we are trying to do through coupling. That is what we are trying to do through SCED. 30 seconds on SCED. SCED as implemented in India is a unique. Not a single freedom of a state has been withdrawn. You do whatever you want to do. You can trade, you can schedule. After that, in the last half an hour or 15 minutes, if we want that there is some efficiency which is visible, and visible only at the highest level, do something so that more economy is caused and states get back that relief. And that is the kind of a SCED pan-India occurring at this point of time. So responsibility of resource adequacy is of the state. They will do procurement, but it will never be 100% perfect. It cannot be. Temporary surplus, seasonal diversity, all these things are a fact of life. Then give them a platform where they can try to adjust. After that, also, it's humanly impossible for any state to do trade every 15 minutes of different quantum at different rate with different states. It's not possible. It has to be done through an automated process. It has to be done in an algorithm process, and that is what SCED is doing. So I will, we have brought a thin layer of SCED. Similarly, now market is working at different places, fine. But if there is an arbitrage between the two, if we see that there is a scope for further economy, that must be facilitated. All the rules, regulations must be adjusted to allow that. That's the other point. Market design is always a work in progress. Big bang in India is very difficult. You do small changes and you get a very good results in long run. Transition mechanism. How do we transition from one state to another state is another one. With this rooftop coming up, DSO, distribution system operator, peer-to-peer market. That's a must, but it will not come within years. It's a unit is decade. Any major reform in India, if it has successful, from concept to commissioning, it has taken 1 decade. And we should not be very apologetic or defensive about this decade. It will take. We must start and do that. And the last is, we need to build our intrinsic capability. When I say intrinsic capability, I start from ministry to the regulators, to the operators, everywhere. We are acutely short of manpower and that too of quality. Mr. Alok Kumar sir, give me 30 seconds because if I don't say this now, then where will I say? All of us know that regulatory commissions have 5 people. What can they do? They are bogged down with their tariff orders. Consultants will make their orders. They have no institutional memory. Same is with SLDCs, same as with STUs. So if we want such a big market, 500 gigawatt green hydrogen, India is not having enough capacity. My submission to the policymakers would be, please take this as the topmost agenda. Get the right people in the bus. Bus will go in the right direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suniji. Such a overall perspective and some very key suggestions. So you made 3 key points in my view. A multi-part tariff for renewable energy. And of course, you said very emphatically the more institutional resources for regulators and all the agencies. And third thing which we could understand from your intervention is that India is still not reaching to a full-blown MBED. You say that decentralized dispatch and ultimately a thin layer at the last moment to do the optimization. That is your recommendation. So at this juncture, let me request Mr. Chintan Shah to give his intervention, but I will request him to give his thoughts on two issues. First is there is a discussion and also proposal that future RE PPAs should be done on some CFD model, not exactly CFD, the market-based clearance and the strike price. So how do you see that in those type of PPAs, whether the developers and the lenders will be able to organize adequate financing for the RE projects? Because that is the one thing. And second, I want your reaction to this multi-part tariff for the renewable energy. So I'll request Chintan, you please.
Thank you, Alokji. And Sunil, thanks for the highlights that you showed. And I also fully agree with you. There's a dearth of manpower, just not in the government. There's a dearth of manpower even in the private sector. Because the way the expansion is happening on renewables, you cannot expand the manpower accordingly. That's a challenge today. And that also as a banker, as a developers, we are also grappling with that. We're trying to borrow people from the other sectors now, trying to train them. And this is a very complex sector. Hopefully the next 4 to 5 years we'll have adequate manpower available. But today there is a massive shortage of manpower. So coming to the two-part tariff, both as a developer, as ex-RE company person, as well as a banker, I think it is more than welcome. The reason is very simple, because we've been saying the power sector has a cycle, and you have this cycle of surplus and deficit. Like in 2000 till 2012, nobody actually thought about PPA. Because it was taken to be granted that PPA to ho hi jayega. Because essentially there was this overall feeling of deficit in the market. The PPA was a non-issue. Rate was an issue, but PPA was a non-issue. And then we come post 2014-15, where you had a so-called surplus scenario across India. PPA actually became a scarcity. Again, we are in the same phase of a deficit scenario, going towards a deficit scenario, because we also know that no new thermal assets are getting financed, essentially, if you are from the private sector. Government projects are getting funded, but otherwise nobody wants to put equity as well as debt in the thermal. Entire equity is happening and debt is happening on the renewable side, most bulk of it. And the demand is outstripping the supply. And at least yesterday I also mentioned over here, only the PLI beneficiary, because there's 1,90,000 crore of PLI benefits which are going to come up. We did a calculation. They will add something in the vicinity of 60 to 80 gigawatt of base demand. The manufacturing units, which are the PLI beneficiaries, and they are sure to come. Their vendors will also come. They will add another 20-30 gigawatt. Plus there are non-PLI manufacturing coming up. So all this put together, you're talking about at least a bare minimum of 150 gigawatt of base demand going up by 2030, which is, as a lender or as a banker, as a developer, the million-dollar question today is that there is a resistance now from the distribution company to enter into a 25-year PPA. That's a basic feeling that has already emerged now. And the reason is very simple. We might have further unbundling on the distribution side, where the wire business and the trading business will be separated. Now the question with the discoms would be, what do they do with this 25-year liability? So there is a talk right now, there is a feeling right now, can we look at a 10-15-year PPA? So that, at least till 10 years, there's a great visibility of demand-supply gap. But what happens after 10-15 years? Now, from the lending perspective, if you have a two-part tariff, I think there's a huge amount of flexibility over there, because at least you get your
and you have capital cost, something
so you
similar.
get your capacity charge, while the energy charge, so you can have a 10-year PPA, so that at least from the lending perspective.
But Chintan, I have one question to put it in perspective. In one of the meetings we had in MNRE, the developers and the bankers were not willing to look at 10-year PPA. They were not ready to budge below 20 years PPA. What is your take on that?
So 10-year PPA, definitely lenders will not like it. But if it's a two-part tariff, with a 10-year PPA, with a capacity charge getting available for 25 years, I think bankers can get a different view altogether.
Okay. This is a new action point. Let us see. Okay, please go.
Yeah, so that's the fundamental thing. And I also personally feel that if we want to really expand the market to reach 500 gigawatt, we need to face the reality, whether we like it or not. For example, Gujarat is now planning to impose a balancing cost of 1 rupees 50 paisa for wind and solar. I think it's a welcome, because that's the actually cost of balancing which GUNL has to pay. So if you start paying that, I think the resistance coming from the trading companies and the distribution companies will be much lesser. You're getting paid for it, for the balancing cost. So this is something which I would say it may hit you on the IRR, but it actually expands the market. So we are looking now at the market size of 500 gigawatt, and that is the correction which is anyway needed. That is, I think I would say that it should come across every state so that you can expand this particular market. So second question that you were
my thing was that when will the developer be comfortable in CFD based contract?
So I'm coming to that. So CFD, the only CFD lending that has happened in the world today happens to be in Australia. Australia has a very...
I think in Europe also, in UK, they have done a lot of CFD based lending. Yeah, please go on.
From the lending perspective.
Yeah.
And what essentially happens in Australia, we were discussing with a couple of lenders there, is they look at a 3-year contract in a CFD also. So if you have some visibility of a tariff which is for 3 years, I think the lending is a non-issue. That is also true from oil and gas also. In oil and gas also, you can't get a fixed rate contract for more than 3 years. That's what the game is. And so this entire thing has been derived from oil and gas market to the CFD market. So I think bulk of the lenders might be okay with it. The important part is what CFD framework will be brought out.
No, but then, no, I agree with you. That means that CFD is going to be very relevant for Indian scenario, because we need huge capacities. And if you have a 3-year CFD, nobody is going to set up a new investment on the basis of 3-year CFD. Can you respond to that? That is the one big issue.
So there have been a lot of studies. I think at least I'm access to a couple of studies where there's a projection of the exchange prices over a couple of years. The challenge would be essentially with solar, where the projected numbers on the exchange, if you're using only solar by 2030, is going to be close to 0 rupees, because they have a huge amount of generation available in the afternoon. But if you actually add with wind and solar together, the numbers are very, very different together. So obviously from the industry perspective, CFD for a hybrid or an FDRE would make a greater sense compared to a solar.
I think that is a thing which one can consider. CFD for a hybrid RE, so our friend Ghanshyam Prasad is smiling. There is a new topic for you to prepare a report on, and then we can all read. Thank you, Chintan. You want to add anything else?
No, nothing else. And one more thing which is, I think, should be also pointed out over here. I also mentioned it a little bit yesterday. We've been targeting 500 gigawatt. That's fine. So from the financing angle, large-scale utility projects, there's no dearth of debt. Debt is available for a good pedigree investor. The major challenge lies with the credit gaps which is happening in the SME sector, which unfortunately has not been touched. As simple as that, if you want to do an energy transition in steel industry. In India, almost 60% of steel is getting recycled. And through MSME, they're using induction furnace. They essentially buy the old steel, scrap, they melt it again and recycle the same steel. Not everybody's got a blast furnace. Now this entire segment of steel itself is constitutes something like 15 gigawatt of total connected load across India. Now, obviously, how can you bring them in the energy transition scenario? The basic problem over there is financing, debt availability to MSME. Now, this is a very large segment. Unfortunately or fortunately, it's growing. Yesterday, I also mentioned we got 8 million MSMEs today in India. This is bound to become 16 million to 20 million by 2030. And they are going to be energy guzzlers. We don't have, unfortunately, a credit mechanism to reach out to them. And this is something that we need to also look into and make them a part of the energy transition.
Thank you. I'll turn to now our old friend Balwant Joshi. Balwant, you are welcome to give your intervention. I request you to address two issues in my mind which are coming. When do you see the long-term capacity contracts coming in India? Because that is being talked in our report also, and I'm already talking the capacity contracts. Second issue I want your response is this RERTC type of contract which the ministry is trying and CA is trying. Is it good for market development or it is not good? Because you are bundling something in a contract and you are same time talking about the market-based dispatch or so when you are bundling three type of energies in one contract, how do you see it will fit into the market-based development of the renewable energy? So Balwant, it is your take now.
Thank you, sir. Again, my apologies. My throat is not in the best of condition. Yeah, but much better than yesterday. Again, thank you, IPBI, for inviting us over here. I will try to answer the second question first. Okay, because first question is still $1 million question. So, we will keep it later. The second question, RTC, around the clock power, which we talk about. And over last couple of years, what we have seen is everybody talking RTC as a panacea for dispatchable energy. Okay, and is it so? The issue is, how does really we look at RTC? If you look at a typical RTC contract of 100 megawatt or 200 megawatt, you will find at least 3 times or 4 times there would be solar generation. So if it is 100 megawatt contract, there would be at least 250 to 300 megawatt of solar generation. There would be another 150, 200 megawatt of wind generation formulation. First of all, when it is happening, it is not strictly 100 megawatt RTC because the power is not getting generated 100 megawatt round the clock. What is really happening is you are putting up a large quantum of capacity, developer is coming and developer is giving you a contract for 100 megawatt and wherein he is taking the significant quantum of risk in terms of the excess energy that is being generated during certain periods of time, right? So this is so from the market perspective, Suni sir would appreciate that it is not actually changing anything for the market operator. Market operator has to deal with significant quantum of solar, significant quantum of wind, and then the storage. So that's the main issue, first issue. Second issue, that is the developer taking some unknown risk over a period of 20 years, and this risk is can't be mitigated in any manner, even substantially. The second issue is these capacities are typically coming up in different parts of the country, right? The one famous contract which we hear about a steel major in Gujarat contracting a large quantum of RTC power with developer, wherein solar is coming up in Rajasthan, wind is coming up in Karnataka, and storage is in Andhra Pradesh. Without getting into Section 11 issues, okay? Without getting Section 11 issues, what are we talking about? We are talking about significant increase in the transmission capacity for the same quantum of power. So it is not 100 megawatt RTC for which there is a transmission capacity coming in. It is actually maybe 700, 800 megawatt of transmission capacity coming in. There are some regional, state level imbalances in terms of the transmission connectivity, Suni sir pointed out earlier. But what we see over the last 7, 8 years, 10 years, there is a significant increase in the transmission capacity that has come up. And as a result of that, now even the southern region, western region, all the regions are very well connected. We see one nation, one grid, one price. Obviously, there is at least as of today, there is a lot of capacity, enough capacity, and which we see getting reflected into transmission charges. CTU charges, which were used to be less than 20 paise per unit, today on an average they are 50 plus, right? And on top of that, we are going to add state level transmission charges. I think the issue is how do we really optimize the entire capacity, not only the generation side, but also on the transmission side. This brings a very interesting issue in terms of how do we look at the storage and how do we integrate the storage. We talk about the storage at generator end, transmission end, distribution end. Last year, all of us were gung-ho about pump storage, right? We were talking about a cost of 4.5 crores, 5 crores per megawatt, and per unit cost of less than 4 rupees per unit, or around 4 rupees per unit, only storage cost. If you see today, there are some reports, there are some contracts where the battery packs have been made available at $65 per kilowatt hour. Okay? That means entire battery system at 130. What does it mean? This means just the battery cost or storage cost using BESS to be less than 3 rupees a unit. Okay? So there is a play between which storage technology to be used and how the storage technology to be used. And I think the government of India has to come in over here and come little aggressively in terms of how it should be done. If we have to meet all these objectives together, I think what needs to be done is that renewable energy projects should be mandated. What we talked about, Sir talked about fixed dispatchable renewable energy. We should insist that the RE project must have CUF of 45, 50. If it is a solar, at least 40. If it is a wind, maybe 55%. So that it will do two things. It will actually reduce the variation at a QCA or the interconnection point for those generating plants, and at the same time it will also improve the utilization of the transmission capacity and will bring down the overall transmission cost. Similarly, we are talking about now 1 crore households. Even if we assume 3 kilowatt per household, that means we are targeting 30 gigawatt capacity to come up in next 2 to 3 years. Now this capacity has to be integrated at the distribution level. So what we need to do is that, or what distribution companies need to do that, they need to integrate storage at distribution level. This would help them reducing the cost during the peak period, energy arbitrage. See, if you see the international experience, the energy arbitrage starts reducing once the capacities start increasing. Okay? But right now there is a good, strong energy arbitrage. So unless and until we go into the deficit situation, the energy arbitrage would be there for distribution companies, and at 3 rupees of even 3.5 rupees only the battery cost, this energy arbitrage it's possible to take or may take advantage of. So two things have to come up, that is the FDRE tenders or more insistence on storage at generator end, also co-located storage, and the second thing is the storage at the distribution company end, distribution boundaries, so that they can able to integrate the DRE in a very effective manner. So that's about, there is one small issue, just one small, about storage. How do we really integrate into the market? So last year there was a group set up by Forum of Regulators, debated in this extensively, and it is suggested that the storage should be regarded as a generator in terms of as far as the scheduling is concerned. As far as the using the energy for charging or pumping, it is a consumer, and it will take the power either through the long-term contracts or through the market, as the case may be. So I will stop here, sir.
I think very interesting. So what we could understand from your intervention, that RERTC is a thing which is coming up because DISCOMs need it for certain power, but it is not probably the most efficient way for from the point of the overall market costs? Because you are saying there are a lot of inefficiencies in surplus transmission and surplus generation capacities, which will flood the market and which will also lead to a lot of more transmission charges being imposed. So RERTC has to be taken forward with a lot of caution. Now it's my privilege to invite our panelist, Mr. Ganguly, and he is going to talk us about derivatives. Mr. Ganguly, I will request you to touch upon the derivatives for renewable energy, because derivatives classically are very, very good when you have a firm dispatchable and all things deliverable. But how do you see the derivatives now, say for 5 years when the solar power is being sold at zero, near zero? So is there any global experience on the derivatives in this context? The floor is open to you, Mr. Ganguly. Yeah. No, that is all right, but I think I think you can take around 10 minutes in all. You will also reply my question, because we must give the sufficient time for the distinguished audience to ask questions, because it shouldn't be one way here. Just, Mr. Ganguly, floor is yours now.
Thank you, sir. At the onset, thanks to IBPI for giving this opportunity and the hospitality. Thanks a lot, sir. Next. Where is the indicator? There. Good afternoon. Just to say that we talk about market, so-called. But the short-term market is hardly 7%. So let us understand what market is. It is hardly 7%, out of which exchanges do cater hardly 5%. And right now in day-ahead market, more than 80% of the time blocks, the prices are at 10 rupees. So there is no market force actually operating. Exchanges had been pretty high. That is around 23% of growth right from last decade. Now these slides will be there, so I'm just putting it forward because I need to complete that. Now, this segment-wise market also is having a lot of changes in exchanges. It had almost 99% in DAM to start with. Then as products came, the DAM percentage and RTM percentage is coming down and term ahead market is increasing. The certificate segment is known, so I'll not go there. This is how the maturity of normally electricity market goes. And right now we are somewhere around continuous trading and OTC derivatives. Then we may go for financial settled derivatives, and then of course the structural products. Bit on market models, because two types, zonal and nodal. We do have zonal pricing, but we have also used some components of nodal pricing also. Now these are the overview of various markets where these auctions are there across the world. Now just 1 minute of pause here. These are the present products in exchanges in our country. We do have collective transactions. Collective transactions are essentially double-sided bidding auction, which is a closed auction. It has got both the IDAM and RTM, we call it real-time market. We also do have contingency, which is both day ahead and intraday, more like spot market. We do have term ahead, daily, weekly, monthly, any day. And with the implementation of GNA, all the exchanges have filed their petition for 11-month longer tenure product also. As far as ancillary services are concerned, we do have TRAS, which is working, the tertiary market is working very fine. As far as certificates, we all know we have got REC and assets. Just to give a background, I will not go to this because these are all known, the matching. I'll not go to auction mechanisms. I'll just come here because that is where we will come there. Actually, I'm not able to see. As far as the... Yeah. Yeah, as far as the spot... Yeah, as far as the spot and forward, the financial market, we do have, we are expected to have futures, options, and contract for difference. Now, a bit on the forwards, the OTC contracts. Based on long-term expectations, they are stable. They have low volatility. Short-term forwards may have higher volatility. There is a correlation with fuels. And presently, we are already having long-term PPAs who are like that. Now, these are the forward market risk, which is essentially the replacement risk and settlement risk. And the futures are essentially to hedge those risks. The advantages are market consensus, the price transparency, liquidity, and reduced transaction and monitoring cost. These are some examples. The presentation will be here. It's very easy to understand how the uncertainty or the hedging is done through futures. I will just take it through the options, which is nothing but insurance. The buyer of option is the insured one, and the seller is the insurer. I'll not go there. These are all examples which... Now, these are the international market where the different futures and options are available, and the types of available also. There are capacity market there also. Now, I just want to take this through because capacity market, 2 minutes I want to take. That's very important. MOP has released, I think it's a seminal work on development of electricity market. And that is where we talk about capacity contract, where the resource adequacy assessment is made to ascertain the demand for long term. At that time, it was LTRA and short term. And RLDC or SLDC may conduct the auction or they can solicit bids on behalf of DISCOMs. All the exchanges are working on the contours of capacity contract right now. And very soon we will come to the commission for approval. Capacity bidding ensures the availability of power by prescribed future period, avoiding purchase on spot or real time. Lastly, the CCTS, the Carbon Credit Trading Scheme. Now, this is presently the MOP on 2023 December has already amended the notification, and we are waiting for the detailed procedure. This is where I will stop it because I thought, sir, 5 minutes of presentation based on the market is required. Thank you. Yes, sir, I'll go there and speak. I think that's...
Yeah, please come.
Okay. Sir, as far as derivatives are concerned on renewables, I think that's important because any renewable right now, sir, slowly, even now also, they are having problem in getting PPA because financial institutions do not lend them without a valid PPA as it stands now. Now, exchanges are supposed to give them the market option also because as per the present market, I think the prices are pretty attractive for renewables to come directly to the market also. And even for derivatives also, this is equally attractive because any renewable which comes today and because the time to fructify generation is only around 1 year, 6 months. So I think exchanges, and that's why we are working to give them the market so that they can directly come to exchange. That is where I think I will stop it, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So now I think it's time to open the session for question and answers from the distinguished audience. So, yeah, can you, can somebody give me a mic there, the gentleman? You can also briefly mention your name and your company so that the audience can correlate.
Yes, sir. Hi, myself Avadesh Kumar. I am the founder of QNext, which basically works on AI and machine learning. Now, this is just to take it from Mr. Alok, when you said that the new age PPAs, where the volume that you offtake from that PPA will pretty much depend on the market. Now, before the spot market, these things were not there. So what will happen, basically, distributors who have
Is to speak little slowly?
Sure, sorry. Okay. So now, if you look at the modern day PPAs, today what a DISCOM can do, DISCOM, if they have a PPA, depending on the market price, they may choose how much of volume to exercise from this PPA, which was not the case earlier when there was no market. Now, because there is a market, what happens is that depending on the price of in the market and the variable cost of a generator, wherever two-part tariff exists, you may choose to consume from the market and back down your generators. Or, if the market price is higher than the variable cost, run your generator and sell in the market even if you don't have demand. So what it means is that suddenly these, so to speak, fixed contract becomes a real option where you're exercising on volume depending on the market price. But the pricing mechanism pretty much remains the same. So if you look at even today's, when the PPA comes, they have two-part tariff. One is fixed and the other is variable. And fixed is pretty much a function of what is the cost of that generator in terms of fixed cost. Now they have a problem because these are no more a fixed contract, these are options, where I'm exercising every day, not just depending on my demand and generation, also depending on the market price. So I'm buying and selling power from that PPA on a daily basis, right? So these are certainly real options, but in a pricing formula, there is no component of this option.
What is the question?
So there will be obviously arbitrage in these contracts. How do we make it efficient from pricing perspective? I'm questioning the pricing formula for these PPAs because there are no more fixed contract.
We got a comment. What is the question you want to ask?
So how do we price such contract now that there is a market? So PPA price.
See, the contract, I can tell you, like they can be either a capacity contract or a contract on CFD basis or a conventional PPA.
Right.
So you enter into a contract that I will give you capacity charge being available and you have to bid in the market. Or the CFD format that, okay, you clear your energy in the market, I will also buy from there. Whatever you under recover, generator to go to the market in time.
Right. Yes.
So the real problem, in my understanding, is that the DISCOMs will have to come on board and allow the generator to go to market so that the market will have sufficient liquidity and power availability. So if you don't, he is not certain whether I'll be going to market or not in the next 2 hours. So I don't see any problem. It's the PPA design you want. You can design a PPA and it will function that you allow him to go to market and he will sell it. Whatever is the PPA terms, he'll get paid or he will pay you.
My question was a little different. So my question emanates from two facts. One is, if you look at the PPAs, now there is a legacy, right? So most of the PPAs have been signed long back. And then you have some new PPAs. When these PPAs were signed, there was no market. Okay, so the pricing was done, assuming that depending on your demand and supply, there will be a certain amount of power you're going to consume, and there will be a certain amount of power you may not consume, depending on your demand only. Now with the advent of the market, suddenly the nature of the product has changed, because you can exercise these contracts every day. So these are long-term duration contracts with a daily exercise involved depending on the market price.
There is no problem, I don't see any problem, because in the old PPA, the condition of payment is given. So both parties will have to function within those conditions.
Yes.
Say, I'll pay you fixed charges if your plant is available.
Yes.
And I'll pay you a variable charge if I ask you a schedule. And
yes.
if I don't ask you, then you can sell in the market.
Yes.
And if need be, some additional conditions can be negotiated in the PPA. How do you share the market proceeds? But my recommendation is that when we are designing the new PPA for future, which will be there with us for 25 years, let us build in the conditions that whenever a MBD comes, then what will be the modalities of functioning the PPA for, say, after 5 years.
Got you. So this is what I was questioning. In the new PPAs,
but if you see the standard new model PPA which Ministry of Power has brought in, it has a clause as an MBED or similar mechanisms comes into place,
Right.
your energy will be cleared through the same mechanism and will pay the difference.
Okay.
So there is already a clause built in the new model standard PPA. Thank you.
CFD is already there.
Yeah. So in the model PPA, it's already provided.
CFD is already there.
Yeah.
Okay. So another question was
I
from,
think let us give
Sure.
chance to somebody else. Yeah. Rakesh Nasab, please.
Yes, I have one question for Mr. Soni about the two-part tariff that he has suggested, and in principle, I agree with him. But the capacity charge, I understand, will be charged on the availability of the generating unit. For solar, there is no problem because some time of the day they will achieve the peak solar capacity. How do you certify the availability of wind, which is not available at full capacity for many days in the year? And second question is about the capacity market and what is our preparedness for and what is initiative that the exchanges are taking to introduce the capacity market, and whether the capacity market will be 5 or 10 years or it will also going to be 25 years contract.
Sir, the second part I can answer. The recommendations in our report is that the capacity contracts will be something around 12 to 15 years long capacity contracts. But we'll also have a short-term capacity contract for any shortfall, which the system operator will bring in, and the discoms who are not having sufficient capacity, they'll have to buy those contracts and pay for it. There will be some additional increment for it. So, and Mr. Ganguly just mentioned that exchanges are preparing some format for the capacity contracts, and they will go into the regulators. But I see the long-term capacity contracts will not come on exchanges.
So will the financing be possible for contracts which are coming through capacity market for 5 years or 10 years?
Sir, there will be only one issue. The initial one will have some uncertainty because generator will have to assess that how much will he recover from the energy in the next 10 years. There is an uncertainty about those prices prevailing because capacity contract is not like he's not quoting your fixed charge. He's quoting his estimate of whatever he will not be able to recover from the market-based clearance. So that uncertainty risk will remain in the initial few capacity contracts because at times to come in the next decade, what he will go to realize from market is not very clear because of the energy transition issues and huge renewable energy. So maybe the capacity contracts will be something hybrid, some like CFD type of thing. That okay, if you don't recover, I'll pay you. So those type of things will come. That is my understanding. The other part, Mr. Suni, yeah.
So, sir, your specific query was on the multi-part tariff. You agree, sir? And if you look at the history, even thermal started with single-part tariff. We had Singrauli single-part tariff. Hydro had single-part tariff, and they were gradually converted into two-part. Otherwise, the dispatch was becoming difficult. And every time we were converting that single-part tariff into multi-part tariff, this question was asked: how do I certify the capacity? So for thermal, verifying the capacity, there is a detailed procedure. For hydro, also there is a detailed procedure. Coming to renewables, if you go to Kamudi or any solar plant, there are some cells separately kept as a standard cell. So if this solar is available, then multiply with that and you can get the capacity, what theoretically should have been your capacity. So capacity verification for wind and solar is a challenge, but sir, now it is possible, because if you are measuring the wind and if you have a standard one, you can convert and this much your capacity should be there. But the point is, if we don't have this two-part tariff, then plants have no incentive to make their plant available at the time when we need. Gradually that capacity charge will also get paid at different hours of the day when the regulator decides. So all those nuances have to come into the solar and wind also of multi-part tariff. Now when we back down, even SLDC has to think twice before backing down, because he will be paying the fixed charges. He will only save at present, otherwise we are comparing with the whole thing. So this whole thing has to be thought through, sir. And if we do that, then renewables can very well come into the market. and then I see a spot price coming in and derivatives coming in. As long as the marginal cost is zero and you have a single part tariff, it is fundamentally something not right for aligning with the market. Thank you.
I think very valid point you have made. So, any more questions? We can take one or two questions more because we are already hitting now almost. Time for the next session is already run.
So just a supplementary to what Soni Saab said, just to understand, I'm not technically as savvy as you guys. How do you fix, or how will you plan to fix the fixed cost of a renewable project, which is already running on a single tariff? Number one. Number two, how do you treat him under merit order?
Yes, sir. A very important point. Now, go back to the hydro. We had so many ISGS hydro plants of NHPC. All were single part tariff. Now, regulator, and we cannot dispatch because everybody's cost, if you only do on the composite cost, we were not. So they started doing the hybrid tariff. Fixed cost in two-part tariff does not mean the classical fixed cost that the entire investment cost has to be recovered by the fixed cost. It is a notional segregation between fixed and variable. A regulator can say that 40% of your fixed cost I will give you in fixed cost and rest will be on the variable cost. Even these terms and conditions of tariff which is at present coming up, why are we making the generators completely risk-free? 100% fixed cost recovery? No. Make it 90%. Let 10% come through energy. Let him try to come to the market. So these are the thought process.
The other part of his question was how do you take them into the merit order dispatch?
Yeah. So now merit order dispatch, once you have bifurcated into fixed and variable, you blind. We will go by variable charge. So if you are a solar, I will give you a variable charge of only maybe 50 paisa or 1 rupee, lowest of thermal, lowest of hydro. So automatically the must run condition is also satisfied, merit order is satisfied, everything gets satisfied.
Thank you, Mr. Suni. I think it's a time to wrap up. I will just mention that there are 5 big issues which have come up in the discussions. There is a consensus that we should start looking at multi-part tariff for RE. There will be many challenges, but I think there is a general feeling in the hall. Second, as Mr. Suni said, that we are not anywhere close to full-blown MBED. What comes for discussion is that decentralized dispatch will continue and there will be last mile or last slice of optimization. MBED is not in much sight still. The capacity contracts are the need, and we are very happy to know that exchanges are working. It will be a very good beginning for India's power sector. Balwant Joshi made 2 relevant points. Ghanshyam Prasad is also for your take. RE-RTC is not the most optimal solution for India's power system if you're looking at the least cost. So we have to work more that whether we promote RE-RTC as a government policy and we encourage it. That is the one big issue which has come. Last point he made is that the PSP window is not very long. Battery, I think, probably is fast catching up. So better the PSP developers, they do their action fast, otherwise they might lose the bus. I think it has been a very interesting discussion and it's a very complex topic, but I must compliment and thanks all my distinguished co-panelists and also for such a lovely audience and such distinguished audience. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad, now you shall speak, sir, and deprive the others for lunch. आइए ना सर, लंच क्या है, रोज खाते हैं, आप थोड़ी रोज आते हैं, प्लीज कम. It's so nice to have a nice speaker like Ghanshyam Prasad ji after this very intense, complicated session. I'm sure he'll make things very simple. Over to you, sir.
Can you put my slide? Good afternoon everyone. Let me at the outset thank IPPI for inviting me to be a part of this session and giving me an opportunity to address on the very key issues of the power sector
I think it will be rather, my task has become much easier after listening to Bhalla sir and ACS Karnataka Gupta ji, and then the panel led by Alok Kumar ji and all the good panelists there, which has already deliberated on most of the topics of the power sector. I think what I can say is, the moment we see that there is a problem, we have to find a solution. The solution is not known. We try to experiment it. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. And that's the kind of race we keep on happening in this sector. I think they are taking some time to load my presentation. But what I have seen over the period of time is the problems in the sector, in the power sectors, is not easy to handle. Till the time they are able to load my presentation, let me explain one policy which we had taken around 4 or 5 years to really mature. And that was, and the most successful one, and that was the late payment surcharge rule, which we had brought on. In fact, that was the time when I had joined ministry and I was being told by all the developers who used to come and meet me that my dues are not getting paid. Past dues is getting accumulated. Current dues are not coming in time. Even my own CPSUs, they had set up a commercial wing in each and every states to really get that money out of their discount. It's a contract between the buyer and the seller. So they should try to resolve themselves. Why should a government come in between to resolve these issues? But then since the problem was getting aggravated and it was throwing a challenge to the overall, we started working on it and we said, and we initially experimented it in 2019 by way of simply an executive order and said that, okay, if it is not paid, then there is a mechanism, and we started introducing some kind of a penal action by way of stopping the power exchange. We got a lot of criticism also from the power exchange that you are trying to kill my business and all that, etc., etc. But then we experimented it. At the back of our mind, we knew that this may or may not work, but luckily it worked, and only one state went to the court. And then we thought that there has to be a legal teeth to whatever we are trying to do. And that is how we came out with the rule, that power late payment surcharge rule, and wherein we tried to address the current payment, how it can be liquidated, and the past dues, how it can be liquidated, giving due considerations to the generator as well as to the discoms. Both of them had to have in a win-win situation, and that is how the thing can work. And that is precisely happened. During the time of implementation, definitely we had many issues. People went to the court as well. We negotiated with them. We tried to explain them. We tried to address their issues as we implemented these rules. And that is how we led to some success. This has really brought the sector back to track, I'll say. And this is one of the biggest achievement probably we had in the recent past in the policy making. And at present, the net result is the current dues are being paid regularly to the developers, and particularly to the RE developers who were not getting paid even for a year or even 2 years at a stretch. And even the past dues have been liquidated to a larger extent, and we have hardly now against 1.4 crores, 4 lakh crores, which had got accumulated to roughly only 0.5 crores as such as of now. Anyway, now they have loaded the presentation, so I'll just quickly. the first slide. Yeah. I think we have progressed quite a lot in this particular segment, that is in the supply side of it. I'll quickly keep on touching because many of the forums, people keep on highlighting that we have electrified the villages, we have given electricity to all households. But is it the end? Are we really satisfied with that? When we started digging it again, we found that there are still so many households which has not been electrified. Once more, the exercise has started going in, and we found that there are so many households which is not yet electrified. Then another segment which is getting covered under Pradhan Mantri Janjati Awas Yojana, and there is again some more households, which is a difficult household which is to be covered. That means still there are challenges in providing electricity to each and every household. So this is one challenge that I just wanted to highlight in this particular slide. Now coming to the number of hours, though it has improved to around 20 hours, maybe 23 or very close to 24 hours. I don't know how far it is in practice, but this is the record that is being reported at most of the places. But again, the question again remains is, are we satisfied to this, or there is supposed to be 24/7 quality power for all? I'm again saying quality power, which is again a key concerns which most of the discoms, most of the consumers are still striving for. In terms of generation, if I see, even though we keep on telling that we have added huge amount of capacity in coal segment, something like 2,207 gigawatt, hydro so much, solar so much, wind so much, RE almost doubled it. But then, is it really sufficient? And the real litmus test comes when we really experience the shortages in the grid, for which even Mr. Soni was also trying to point out. Even many days, even during the solar hours also, we tried to see that there used to be some shortages of around 2 to 3 gigawatt. In some of the days it has happened. Which means that the pace at which we had projected that solar capacity is supposed to be added could not get added, and that is how we are facing these challenges. Now we have also taken another move that because we don't have capacity during the non-solar hours, which means I need to shift the load from the non-solar hours to the solar hours, with the hope that solar capacity keeps on adding up at a pace at which we desire, at which we have planned for. And if we don't do it, probably we will be missing both the targets, solar hours as well as non-solar hours. So this is very, very a big challenge that probably we will be suffering from.
Sir, can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Solar hours to 6 घंटे होते हैं, sir. 6 hours. Now, we are going to add capacity to those 6 hours, right, sir? Today we may be short, as you rightly said. Tomorrow we'll be surplus. How are we going to shift that power?
I'm not shifting solar power. I'm trying to do the other way around. And we are trying to shift the load from the non-solar hours to the solar hours. So that is how we are going to manage the grid. And I mean, this has practically happened because 2 years earlier, we used to have maximum peak demand during the evening peak hours, which has already shifted to the non-solar hours. That means it is coinciding somewhere with my solar, and that is around 2:30 to 3 p.m. And that's the graph that has come. There will be ways and means to really shift further loads to the solar hours, because we find that unless we do that, probably the things is not going to be more stable. Now, of course, certain initiatives were taken, and I think in this particular segment, I missed one point, that is the coal market, which was being told by Alok Kumarji. That coal market is also supposed to be introduced sooner or the later, so that this thing happens. But problem that is going to come again is my third bullet, which even though we have said that we will be flexing these coal-based power plants, and these flexing is definitely going to be a good challenge. Even though we have mandated by way of regulations to 55% or going up to 40%, it's going to be a challenge, even though we have made some kind of a phasing and we have mandated it, but it's yet to be seen. In the coal base, earlier we have shifted from the construct that we will try to retire these plants over the period of time, which we have now said that we will not be retiring these plants, and we will try to do renovations and modernization till the time we are able to have some capacity adequacy in the non-solar hours, which is going to be challenging for me. At the same time, we are also trying to see that we add more coal-based capacity to take care of my non-solar demand. Of course, asset utilization is definitely there. Coming to the hydro side, of course, it's very right, sir, that we have a big challenge of this window of PSP, and which I keep on telling to all, whenever I take these review meetings almost every month with the PSP developers, that they have a window of hardly 5 years. If they are able to bring this PSP in 5 years, probably they will be able to do so. Otherwise, again, once the battery storage cost comes down, people will again, the mindset of the people and the buyers will again shift towards the battery energy storage. Nobody will see the long-term benefit of the PSP, and that is precisely what has happened in the past when we were developing hydro earlier. But the moment coal picked up, everybody started comparing with the coal price and the hydro price, and hydro got the back burner. So similar things might happen after 5-6 years if we are not awakened as of now. But good thing to the house is that we already have something like 53 gigawatt of projects, which is with CA, which is under survey and investigations. And we are hoping somewhere around 42 gigawatt of hydro pump storage by 2032. So this is higher than, sir, what we had already projected in the NEP. Because what we are trying to do now is we are trying to have more of PSPs and trying to replace battery as much as possible. These are the two more good initiatives that was taken by as a policy maker, because hydro was getting delayed mostly because of the contractual dispute. So independent engineers were made, and reconciliation committee. Conciliation committee is another innovative ways which is already has been practiced in the NHAI in the highways sector. We replicated this in the power sector, and this has worked quite well. And almost all the cases which have been referred to these independent conciliation committee, they have come out very successfully, and they have been able to resolve these issues in 90 days or slightly more than that. Other than that, if probably had this not been there, these cases would have been referred to the court, which takes anywhere between maybe 2 years, 3 years. I don't know when it can get resolved. So I think all of us were pointing out towards the resource adequacy, because earlier, 4-5 years back, all of us had the concept that generation has already become surplus. People stop tying up power. But we all defaulted probably at that time. And if I recall correctly, I was pushing this concept of resource adequacy plan 6-7 years back in the ministry after I visited CAL ISO, who were already doing it, but could succeed only after I went back to CA last year, and we were able to make the guidelines, and the plans have started kicking in. But this is very, very important. That means what we are now saying is all the DISCOMs must have a long-term visibility of at least 10 years. Because in your kitty, you have everything. You have nuclear, you have coal, you have probably some gas, which is already there with you. And then you have all the REs that is coming in this particular segment. So unless you have a visibility of next 10 years, probably you will not be able to manage your, particularly the non-solar peak hours. So that is going to be a big challenge. So visibility of 10 years is a must. And that is how whatever plans we have made, CA is handholding it. And we have done, sir, now for 25 states. We have already shared these studies with the states, wherein we have given year-wise what is your requirement, and when you have to tie up and how you have to tie up, and all those details has already been made.
Sorry, sir, one small question again. You remember we had almost 6,000 megawatts of brand new gas stations lying around in South India. They didn't have gas. Are they still around, or are we going to use them, or they're all scrapped?
I'll give you the overall perspective of gas as of now. We have roughly 25 gigawatts of capacity, wherein 4 to 5 gigawatts cannot be commissioned, cannot be refurbished. So if you discount that, we have 20 gigawatt which can run, out of which around 10 gigawatts we are able to harness during the crunch period. Which crunch period, what I say is, this is around, say, something like April, May, June, and then September, October. These are some of the crunch month, wherein demand goes very, very high. And during this period, we are able to run this, even if the cost of generation of these gas-based plants are much higher. Either in the RRAs, that means in the ancillary services, or coming out through the markets and all. For the rest of the 10 gigawatt, which is yet to be done, we are one bid is already there right now, which we have planned to get the benefit during this year's crunch period. But we are also working now on the long-term visibility of to these gas-based plants, so that at least we are able to utilize them during the peak hours and at least during the crunch months.
So how do you take care of take-or-pay contracts of GAIL, yaar?
This again, I am working with the regulators, PNGRB, the regulators. I have already spoken to them. I have written letters also to the regulators. Again, it's the similar concept. What we have in the power market also, we have a short term, right? And that gets cleared either in the day ahead or in the intraday. But right now in the gas network, you have D-3 or D-2 at the most. So I have written to them that we can also go for day ahead or align it with the intraday, whatever margin that you have in the pipelines. The challenge there is GAIL being the supplier, and GAIL is also the conflict of interest what we used to face in the power sector, wherein we have insulated them and we had made them separate. This thing has to be done in the petroleum sector as well. Until we do that, probably we will not be able to get to that and solve the problems. So GAIL से अच्छा IOCL है, the IOCL का contract आप देखेंगे तो उसकी contract और भी अच्छी है. Maybe a feedback to you, because they also have their own consumption. So I had a meeting with IOCL as well, and because they have their own consumption, so they have more flexibility to address to your fluctuations. So maybe you can have a word with them as well. So gas space I have covered. Fast track nuclear power generation. In fact, being in the board of NPCIL, we have tried to see that how we can really now accelerate the capacity addition of nuclear. So the two strategy we have now adopted in nuclear now, and one is the two type of unit which has got stabilized. One is 1000 megawatt, which is at Kudankulam, and 700 megawatt, which has been recently commissioned, 2-3 units. So we have said, just replicate this. So Kudankulam, we will be adding 4 more units, so 4000 megawatt coming from there, and 700 megawatts units will get replicated. So each year now we will be adding at least 1 to 2 units, so that by 29-30, that means in next 7 to 8 years, we will just double the capacity of nuclear. And these are all in the pipelines. So
this is based on foreign fuel, not India.
Yeah, right now it is on the foreign fuel, not on the thorium. I'll not touch upon the solar and wind, which has already been spoken a lot about it. RERT concept, sir, it was initially just to give some comfort to the DISCOMs for the mindset because of the dispatchability of the power. And that is how this concept has gone. But I do agree with you that this cannot be the solution to replace the baseload stations. Because the moment you try to do this, whatever surplus capacity that you have in the RERTC construct, say for example, in Andhra, the RERTC of 600 megawatt, it has roughly 1700 megawatt of capacity that is going to come. So the additional capacity, either it will be going in the market and which will be distorting the market again. So initially it will not have much of impact, maybe for 3, 4 or 5 years. But the moment we go beyond that, probably then the things will start distorting everything. Absolutely.
Are bullish and they have taken some risk. As they unfold and the market prices of the surplus power comes down, my take is that RERTC price, your discount price will go up to 6-7 rupees. Let us see after 3 years.
This is very much true, sir, because right now, whatever RERTC price have been discovered, they are not the true RERTC price. This is I am warning to the DISCOMs, because you have not still considered when you actually need it. What has been specified is 80% availability or 85% availability, but the period is not specified. So please be careful when you are tying up RERTC power, because this is not exactly going to replace you when you need this power. I think just now ACS Karnataka was also mentioning to me that they have 7,000 to 8,000 of wind, and during the time when he needs it, hardly 200, 300 megawatts is available to him. So that's the problem, and that problem has to be addressed somewhere. And in RERTC also, you will have a number of days with such instances. And that is where the pain point of the DISCOMs will be. Storage definitely is there. Fast track of development of hydro PSP I have already covered. Coming back to the transmission, again, I think last 7 to 8 years we have done wonders in this, whether it is in the interregional or in the interstate transformation capacity, that has definitely grown. But still we are not sufficient. Let me tell you again, even though people keep on saying that in terms of transmission, we have achieved a lot. And many a times I keep on getting a feedback from the different standing committees that I don't require, the states say that I don't require the transmission lines. I think Soni Sahab rightly pointed out that please don't look at a short-term scenario whenever you are looking at a transmission plans. Please look at least 10 years ahead of time. And then only you will be able to realize what kind of transmission line you really require. Because now the things have changed. You are not now concentrating on 200 kV or 400 kV, you are concentrating on 800 kV HVDC, or you are concentrating on 765 kV of AC lines, which takes time to be planned and to be executed, particularly HVDC. Now, with any given time, it will take at least 6 to 7 years to get to because of the supply constraints. In transmission, 2-3 things, good things that are happened. I think all of you are aware about all these three elements. But as CA, we will not stop at this. We definitely have plans for 537. Now we have already started working on the hydrogen and green ammonia. And the transmission plans definitely will be out within maybe 6 months or 7 months. Which will try to facilitate and give them a greater visibility to all the hydrogen or ammonia developers that, okay, in the given time frame, whenever you are trying to hook in, you will be getting that connectivity. GNA definitely is a good for the market unifications and all. I don't want to touch this. Of course, cross-border, strengthening of subsystem, I will not go. The last bullet is definitely, again, important, which I had taken exercise around 4 years back, standardization of transformer design. Because again, the transformer used to be a very, again, pain points when I used to see the timelines for commissioning of the transmission lines. So we standardized the designs. Now the things have almost stabilized, except for the fact that we still have a challenge in the CRGO. CRGO will continue to be a challenge unless we are able to make that system there. But I am again looking at not only transformers now. We want to, as CA, we would like to see other equipments also getting standardized so that this gives manufacturer a good leeway and the supply chain is not distorted.
So you're the chairman of BIMSTEC, am I right?
I'll come to that. Yeah.
Because you said Myanmar, so I was just wondering, you're the head of BIMSTEC, so is anything happening there?
Oh, okay, let me answer his question. There we are setting up for the first time in this particular space, whether it was SAR or BIMSTEC or BBIN, all these forums. So first time we'll be having an energy center in India, and that is being set up at Bangalore. Initially, we will have an entry management, and for that, the necessary statutory agreements is being signed as of now. Particularly, the host country agreement is likely to be signed maybe in another 1 month or so. After that is signed, then we'll have a start having, and we already have the office now ready, sir. Maybe we might be getting it inaugurated. I think that's the vision of Alok Kumarji itself. So it may get inaugurated at the end of February, or maybe could be in March. So we'll start BEC.
Is China and Pakistan a member?
No.
Thank you.
What we are looking at it, because so far whenever we talk about the cross-border, we have now extended our narrative from South Asia to beyond, and that is under the framework of One Sun, One World, One Grid. We want to go beyond this. Of course, besides Sri Lanka, which we have not been able to connect so far, we want to go towards Southeast Asia, towards Singapore, or via Myanmar and Thailand, or towards the western side, towards the Saudi Arabia and all. I mean, this is there. HVDC, I have already mentioned about the supply constant, and which is very, very critical for now RE integration. Why I have mentioned this here is because now whatever AC line we wanted to bring from the, say, Gujarat hub or Rajasthan hub, or even from the Karnataka hub and all, so we have already exhausted these 765 kV links. So if I have now want to transfer any bulk power from there, maybe enhancing from 20 gigawatt to 30 gigawatt or 20 gigawatt to 40 gigawatts, I have to go for a HVDC lines. We have already planned 4 HVDC lines, and the supplier is now saying that you cannot get, I will not be able to give you supply anywhere in at least 4 to 5 years, not earlier to that. Which is again, becomes very critical to the RE developers because they need connectivity in 24 months. So, I mean, this is becoming a very big challenge. So now we are trying to work out for an alternate method so that RE development also does not stop and we are able to match the other timelines as well. Subsea cable again is going to be the area which we are again looking at, because once we are targeting supply to Singapore and in between we have Andaman Nicobar Island, if we have to do the greening of this island, then this we have to connect from mainland only. Because earlier we were thinking that we might have renewable energy right at the Andaman Nicobar Island itself, but probably that is not there. We have done all the survey, etc., and we will not be able to green this island only with the capacity that is available in Andaman. Of course, the cost is coming very high, but we have to take that challenge sometimes or the other. The kilometer is around 1100 kilometer, and the cost will be somewhere around 30,000 crores. But what we have seen is if I can build a transmission line from Vishwanath Charali to Agra with the initial power flow of only 250 to 500 megawatt, I think we can do this as well and trying to see that our island becomes more greener. Probably we'll have to take that challenge. Dynamic rating of transmission lines. This is another area which we will be doing the first pilot now with the power grid, taking power grid along. What does this mean is we have the capacity, and the capacity keeps on varying based on the temperature variations. Right now we are not utilizing this capacity, unused capacity, which could be relieved because of the temperature variations, which we will be able to do with dynamic rating of the transmission lines. Another area which even US have started working now, because ROW is going to be a big constraint. So reconducting, so we are making another plan in the country that what are the lines which needs reconducting so that in the same ROW, we are able to enhance the transmission capacity and capabilities. Energy transition, I think I'll not touch upon much because all these targets and all, I think most of these RPO, RGO, etc. is already done. Storage, RE. Only must-run status of renewable energy generators. I would like to spend 1 or 2 minutes here because I think 4 or 5 years back we are facing a challenge of curtailment of renewable power, and even the Indian Grid Code also says that it is supposed to be must-run, and we need to utilize that power first and then go for it. But as we really keep on adding renewables from here, and there will be a time when probably must-run condition will have to be had a relook to the must-run conditions of the renewable generators. Of course, right now we have been able to address the must-run conditions through the mechanism of must-run rule. I think most of you must be aware about it, because now what we have mandated, earlier the deemed concept was there, deemed generation concept, and based on the deemed generation, the compensation was being paid by the DISCOMs, and DISCOMs used to be reluctant to buy that power, and that is how the curtailment used to happen. So we address this particular issue by saying that this power has to be traded in the market, and so that it automatically gets measured in the market by way of dispatch from the market, and the volume that gets traded in the market is supposed to be compensated by the DISCOM. So after that, we have not received much of complaints in terms of curtailment. But then, right now I have flagged this particular issue going forward, because as we keep on adding the renewable capacity, probably must-run conditions will have to be relooked at it. Clean coal technology, definitely I have mentioned it here because now the strategy is that the emission level, because now the world have started talking about the emission level of the sources of generation, because nobody is ready to even phase out gas-based generation. If you see the narrative of US, if you see the narrative of European countries, they never talk about phasing out of the gas-based generation, and rather they are increasing the amount of gas-based capacities. And let me give you a figure in terms of the carbon CO2 emission. It is almost half. coal-based generation is 1,000, then it is around 500. I mean, that's that kind of a ratio. So what we have thought and we have trying to strategize is that can we reduce the emission from our own coal-based stations by way of improving the technology, improving efficiency, co-firing, etc., etc. And maybe going forward, we can even go for CCUS, etc., etc. So what we have seen is if certain technologies are introduced into this particular segment, maybe by 7 to 8 years, probably we will be able to reach to the parity of gas-based. And we will have another advantage that gas-based has a methane emission and we will not be having a methane emission. And we don't want to take an intermediary path of going through via gas. So we'll be much better in that terms as well. Of course, biomass is already there. Greening, I have already covered. Charging of electric vehicles, definitely this is another one. I think I'll skip this slide because it has already been covered by Secretary MNRE on this. I just wanted to give one perspective about the investment because I had mentioned in my opening remarks that there was a time when the investments were not coming in the power sector because of certain issues and certain backdrops. But now the investment has started coming in, and this is the kind of investment that is being made. Roughly 17 lakh crores investment is there, and roughly almost equal amount is in the pipelines as well. Of course, these are just the numbers of projects that have been commissioned, but more important is this second bullet, that is project under implementation, 26 gigawatt of thermal, and that is mainly coal-based generations we are adding up. Hydro, 18 gigawatts. PSP I have already mentioned separately, and there will be interstate and distribution networks.
Sir, coal-based projects are all government, is it?
Sorry?
These are all government projects, or there are some private projects also?
In this thermal, mostly it is either state, roughly 50% is coming from the central CPSUs and 50% coming from the state. Only I think 3 or 4 projects are coming from the private segment as of now.
Because somebody said getting finance for thermal projects is a big challenge now.
It is going to be a challenge, but I think if they can finance gas, they will be financing coal as well. The narratives are now changing. So
One question which came out from yesterday's discussion, just want to, these private projects of thermal, are they signing long-term PPAs of 25 years or what?
Of course, mostly what I see is they are all big players, they are coming in. Either it is coming through the Jindals or coming from the Adani side, and they are big players, probably they have their captive uses. To my understanding, they will have captive uses. Okay. This is another area which we definitely, in terms of when we talk about the energy transition, we must always keep in mind the energy efficiency part. I'll just only simply mention about the importance of it. Some measures have been taken, whether it was LED programs or PAD schemes, etc., wherein we have seen that huge amount of CO2 reduction and saving has happened. But we must keep that in mind. One more thing that we are now trying to do for the consumer is particularly for electricity connections, and this rule will be amended, sir. What we had provided are timelines. Probably that timelines, if we see from the World Bank standards, this timelines has to be squeezed now. We discussed it with the states, and this will further get reduced because now we can't ask the people to wait for electricity once we have already reached up to the houses and all. The another thing that we wanted is how do we really try to say that, I mean, the billing, etc., becomes very easy, and that is, again, in the ease of living, we are trying to address this kind of thing. But again, this is just to show that the point that I was trying to make is now the things have started coming in the sector, and it's only the CPSUs where they have their capex, capitalization, etc. has improved. Similarly, I don't have the numbers about the private sector, but I am told that even in the private sector as well, the things have started improving in the financials as well. Similarly, our people have started disbursing loans. This disbursement of loan definitely means that, I mean, the things have fast-tracked altogether. Now, the main key points, we have been able to do something good about generation, something good about transmission, but actually from where the money flows, I think probably that segment is still in a bad shape. And we need to do this. Some analysis, I'll dwell upon only some of the point, and particularly these are some of the factors of where I wanted to point it out because this mainly concerns with the regulators and also the licensee who needs to rightly point out at the right time to get the money recovered. I mean, it's a fault of both of them, I'll say. Of course, these are some of the key responsibilities. Again, the ACS ARR gap has started going up, which again becomes a point of worry for us. We've had a trajectory of its going down. We were thinking that we are moving towards the viability part of it, but again, it has gone up. But when we analyzed it deeply, we found that it is mainly because of the increase in the power purchase cost, which happened mostly because of the maybe imported coal we have used more and other things we have used it. But then we had also side by side given a mechanism for automatic recovery of these costs, and which has not happened. So, I mean, both ways it has happened because we needed supply, we wanted to give supply to the consumers, but at the same time we wanted it also to be recovered from the consumers, which has defaulted, and that is how the things has happened. Losses, definitely we are much better.
Can I ask a question, sir? Sorry, yeah. I can't help it. Budhapa aage, I can't resist. Could you just go back the slide, sir, if you can? The last point you mentioned, how accurate is the 16.3 and 15.4 is my question.
I'll only answer to one thing, that the mechanism or the standards with which 16.3 was measured, similar standard have been used to measure 15.4 as well. No difference.
Ghanshyam ji, any diplomatic comment on the accuracy? Sir, mic use kar lo. Bada important point hai. भैया माइक दो ना उधर क्या?
I can only say that these are based on the audited accounts of the DISCOMs, which used to be delayed by 3 years. Now they're up to date, say, within the next, say, 8-10 months of closing of financial year. So these figures are based on the audited accounts which are seen by CAG, number one. About the ACS ARR gap, Ghanshyam Prasad ji, I don't agree that FPPC is not working, because I've been reading in the newspapers, a lot of states are imposing now.
I'll give you the status, sir. Very soon.
Because that, I think, is changing the scenario.
It's changing the scenario, but still it's not happened, sir. I'll give you the scenario. Just few states ahead. Right, sir. Of course, this is again, there are other elements as well, but you can see from this particular slide is mainly it is on account of power purchase cost, and for which we had already made the arrangements that it has to be recovered through some mechanism. Of course, there are certain DISCOMs, I don't want to name them, but this is again outstanding debt, which is again increasing, which is again a very bad signal in terms of the health of the DISCOMs. We need to take corrective actions. I now want to point out before the House where we need to really work at very hard so that the sector becomes better. Accumulated losses, again, this is a point of worry, which now has gone up to 6.76 lakh crores. Debt borrowing again is going up. AT&C losses, of course, this is just a number. Now coming very quickly on this particular aspect, sir. Now, if you see how many of them have aligned to our rules, green part shows that they have by and large aligned, but again I'll show where they have not, they have also not aligned, and the red ones show that they have not at all aligned at all in this particular aspect. And this is where, in fact, what we have said in our rule is the adjustment has to be done on a monthly basis. Only few states, you can see in the greens, they have aligned it to the monthly basis, and there also they have put something different, which again derails the process. Only West Bengal is on annual basis. Just think about this, annual basis, which means that DISCOM तो मर गया, मतलब वो recover बिल्कुल नहीं कर पाएगा. जो येलो में है वो भी क्वार्टरली बेसिस पे कर रहे हैं विद सर्टेन कैप्स अगेन, सर्टेन राइडर्स, विच अगेन इज नॉट गोइंग टू हेल्प. यदि आप इसमें देखें, ऑफ कोर्स दिस स्लाइड शुड हैव कम अर्लियर, इसमें जस्ट कुछ स्टेट्स का ही दिया हुआ था जिसमें कि पावर परचेज कॉस्ट कितना डिसअलाउ किया हुआ है. माइंड बॉगलिंग फिगर्स। आसाम के केस में देखें जिसकी छोटी सी ARR है, उसमें 968 crores power purchase cost has not been allowed. How can the DISCOM survive if you disallow this kind of a cost? They will definitely fall in the loop. This time you have not allowed it. They have not recovered the cost. Next year, definitely they will not have money to buy electricity and supply to the consumers. So they will get into the loop of, again, load shedding and all that aspect. I don't want to go each stage wise. Okay. So here only, sir, I just wanted to actually I missed out that particular slide, but I'll say verbally on this. So there are states which have again said that, okay, you please do it on monthly basis, but put a cap. So you are not allowed to recover beyond this particular capacity. Then again, this becomes a, defeats the entire process. So we have again done a brainstorming on this, on the FPPS aspect, because this is another rule which can change the game of the DISCOMs. And if they are able to really get it done on a monthly basis, even if the tariff order is not coming in time, probably the DISCOMs can still maintain healthiness as they go along. So we have found one or two good suggestions that has come. One is they say that can we have a manageable fund onto this? There could be a period when the prices goes down or prices comes down, goes up or down. So you can keep on having this kind of an adjustment. Second suggestion that has come is, and this has already been, because most of the people or most of the regulators and even the states, they take a plea that it might give a tariff shock. So to reduce that tariff shock, you can have this kind of an arrangement through that fund management. Second thing that has come is because what happens is there is again a big gap between the actual ARR and the true up when it happens. It is normally 2 years. And whatever you have already disallowed, you have supposed to allow, and that will come after 2 years. By then the DISCOM has already lost huge amount of money. So now what we are proposing is, can this balance be made a part of the FPPS itself? So that it again goes into the loop of the regular recovery rather than going in the loop of the other ones. So some of the good suggestions that have started coming, but we need to do some more brainstorming so that there is a regular interval. Actually, the idea that is similar to what has happened in the petroleum sector as well, in terms of petrol or diesel when we buy. I mean, the prices are getting changed almost every day. So similarly, we are thinking that can it not happen in the power sector as well without much of issues. So nothing much, sir. I'll not dwell upon much on the market development. I think you had an entire good session on the market development. But definitely I'll say that even though people were thinking that market coupling can be a good solution, definitely it is going to be seen how best it is. But market coupling along with the optimization with the SCED, I think probably that needs to be taken forward. And this SCED, if it is extended to the entire gamut of the power sector, then probably the things will be more advantageous. I just wanted to add.
Just for the audience, please explain what SCAD is, please.
Security Constraint Economic Dispatch. Security Economic Dispatch is I dispatch entire kitty on a merit order dispatch. But definitely there will be constraint in the grid, and that is the security constraint. Either it could be grid related or it can be transmission related, etc., etc. That is constant. But the whole principle will go on economic principles, and we'll be dispatching entire power. In fact, it is happening right now also, but this is happening only with respect to the interstate generating stations. Mostly NTPC and DVC plants are participating into this. For a state, it is optional, but so far none of the state they have come forward to be a participants in this particular kitty. Development of RE through the market mechanism, this has been discussed, and I think I slightly differ when it was being debated that we should start with the hybrid one. I say we should let us start, the simplest is to start with the solar. Maybe 500 megawatt, 1000 megawatt or 2000 megawatt of solar. And I know there are so many developers who are ready to jump into this particular segment. Because the price that we have in the GDAM is very, very lucrative as of now, and most likely it will remain so because the it is always higher than the DAM price. And DAM price is getting derived from the marginal price again, and marginal price will always be driven by the coal-based generations. So that's the equation that always goes. And whatever little analysis we have done, that very much shows that it will always be practical to go for this kind of a construct. And because of apprehensions, I think we can start with anything with solar, maybe plain vanilla solar, and then we can think of improving the construct as we go along. Another big challenge is in the forecasting and scheduling of RE, which I think we were just now discussing as well. The challenge is not in the software or the models of forecasting or the scheduling. The challenge is in terms of the data that is supposed to be made available to the IMD, who is supposed to forecast at a local places. Right now, you must be hearing that, okay, you have the forecast is for the Vidarbha region or for, that kind of a broader region. That doesn't help at all to the local solar developer or local wind farm as such. So we need to drill down to this particular stage. Of course, with a little intervention that we have undertaken, sir, we have we have asked these developers, and these developers have agreed also. They have started supplying their data to IMD now, because each wind mast have a measurement unit. Solar park also has a weather measurement unit. So these data are now getting compiled at IMD, and they are going to improve their weather forecast. So once we have a better weather forecast, then naturally the forecasting and scheduling can be a good improvement.
One thing, this solar power price visibility in the exchange in the next 10 years, can somebody bring out a more credible report, because people are talking here zero pricing and all? How do you do a CFD and all? Because what you are saying is makes sense, because overall demand supply scenario, at least in the next 6 years, shows that you will be still, say, working out your coal stations even in the solar hour peak. So these type of projections for next 10 years will do a great thing for the power sector. Because there is always an apprehension of zero pricing by 30, and also nobody is picking up the CFD.
I think zero price is ruled out. The very fact, let me give you one scenario, and that scenario is when we were planning 5 years back. As I mentioned to you that we were always in the mode of surpluses, and we were thinking that we may even try to phase out the coal, and that was the construct. And we had even taken a decision that we'll keep on retiring the plants. But then very quickly, last 3 years, we realized that probably we are going to make a mistake and we will not be able to meet the demand during the non-solar hours. And we reversed the gear and we said no retirement. Whatever is already there, we must preserve these capacities. Even if some capacity is required to give me a support, even for a month, we must keep that capacity. That's the kind of narrative we have now as such. And not only that, then we studied that, okay, if my demand grows, and we did a lot of sensitivities. So earlier figure of just adding 25 to 26 gigawatt, which was as a part of initial study, we revised it to around 50 gigawatt, which again we found that it is not going to be sufficient, particularly with the recent growth in the demand. And we have now increased it to roughly 80 to 90 gigawatt, what we are talking about. And that is how we have increased the number of power plants and the number of candidates which are supposed to be in this particular KT. And what I mentioned to you is roughly 26 gigawatt is already under construction, 12 gigawatt is under bidding, and rest is we are trying to tie up the loose ends so that they go in the bidding very quickly, because we want to bid them out in next 1 to 2 years at the most, so that their benefit is realized by 31, 32. Because another narrative that is going on across the world is, and people are asking, is when India is going to peak in terms of capacity, coal-based capacity. As per our studies so far, I think we can safely say that it will peak around 31, 32. But seeing the kind of slippages that we have in the commissioning of these power plants, it can happen somewhere in around 33, 34. Sorry, sir? I don't think that right now the coal plants, coal-based power plants, which are supposed to generate, they are generating, sir. There's hardly any plant, and rather stressed plants have also have started generating, sir.
No, you said that we would retain those stations, we would not retire them. So in that case, the cost has to increase, cost of generation.
Cost of generation, see, I mean, over the period of time, it will come down, and that analysis we have already done. I can share with you separately. That is what, sir. That is how we have already worked out that cost. Yes. Yes, absolutely, sir. Absolutely. Dynamic compensation of RE resources. This is again going to be a very, sorry, yeah, please go ahead.
No, I just wanted to, I don't want to come in the way because we are waiting for lunch, but it's still...
This is my last slide, sir, don't worry.
No. Forecasting and scheduling of RE is a very, very important issue for us because we have close to 60% RE. But more than that, also the issue of pumped storage plants and operation of the pumped storage plants. On that, I want some kind of clarity. Maybe offline I'll discuss it with you. Can there be smart grid and that basically operates the pumped storage plants automatically rather than it being done manually? Whether there is any kind of guidelines or a protocol for them to be operated. So this is the issue which I wanted to pick you up.
Okay, we'll discuss
we'll do it
offline. Another point that I just wanted to point out is the dynamic compensation at the RE resources. And this dynamic compensation, we have already seen that a number of incidences has happened in Gujarat, in Rajasthan, wherein we lost around 6,000 to 8,000 megawatt at a single instant of time. And if we don't provide these dynamic compensation, probably we will be ending up into a large problem from the grid stability point of view. At the center level, we have almost tried to see that these compensations are being provided at the time of the first charging itself, which is being regulated by or which is being monitored by the regional load dispatch centers before they really give the final permission for getting it connected to the system. But the challenge still remains is those RE plants which is coming in the state. What feedback we have got is the state connected RE plants, they are not ensuring the proper dynamic compensation which is supposed to be put in place, and they are not being put in place. So please be careful because already CA has made in the regulations that dynamic compensation has to be provided at each and every facilities of the RE, whether it is solar or wind. Because this is the only thing that will take care of the variations and the moment there is some disturbance in the grid, and that will get compensated from here itself. Otherwise, you may face a big challenge. Stability of electricity grid, I think Soni Sahab has already dwelt about it. The last point probably is again the key of entire policy making, which we said is we are now dwelling upon is the enforcement of Act, rules, regulations. This is again a very big challenge. Of course, we have seen that we had made a number of rules, regulations. Some are being implemented, some are still not being implemented. So what are the teeth and how do we really strengthen everything? Because this relates to the policymakers, to the regulators, to every one of us, and this does affect. So probably we are now thinking, of course, this is again, the question is still open, and I'll end my discourse at this particular with this question, that how do we really make this enforcement a practicality and what can that mechanism be? Of course, we are thinking of going for some kind of an enforcement wing and all that's under discussion. But definitely a good suggestions in this aspect will be a good feedback to me when I go back. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Round of applause. You will become an enforcement, you'll become another ED for power.
I think you have somebody.
We have lots of questions.
Rakesh. Yeah, Mr. Ghanshyam, one question I have from you. You have said that now in the foreseeable future we need more thermal power, and you have initiated action by adding new capacity, taking up new projects. But what is the scenario, because these projects will take 4 years, 5 years to come up. What is the scenario during this next 3 to 4 years? Because the demand is now growing in some states in double digit. And how these projects are coming? They are coming 62 or 63? And
Sir, as I think I didn't wanted to mention that, but since some people have already indicated that we will not be getting finance of the coal-based power stations, that is how we are roping in our CPSUs, and that definitely this will be under 62. That we will be trying to take it to, particularly our own CPSUs. States which are coming up, they have their own internal demands, so they will be trying to have their PPAs from that angle. And as I mentioned to you, it's only 3 or 4 private developers are coming, and they will be in the captive mode. So I don't see much of an issue with respect to the PPAs and all, because central generating stations, they will get tied up. States, they have their own demand, and IPPs, they will have the captive. So that's the construct with which we are moving. Second aspect that you asked is how is the position of the supply and demand in the next 3 to 4 years. I think it is very, we are almost running neck to neck. Rather, our life is miserable. I'll only say this. So, but again, this reminds me one more thing, which step we have already taken, and the rule has also been notified, that all the resources, let's be very practical, and I think somebody mentioned that people are trying to be conservative in their own capacity. That means I think, sir, aapne hi kaha tha, ki people are still holding that capacity with himself, thinking that I'll need it when and probably they don't need it at all. So what rule we have made is whatever surplus capacity that you have, that means any differential between the declared capacity and the scheduled capacity, this must be sold into the market if you really want this availability to be shown for recovery of your fixed charges. So these are 2 things that is going to happen in this. That means automatically the DC will get tested. Right now there is no mechanism for testing of declared capacity in the present construct of the grid code. So automatically this will get tested by way of market. The day it gets scheduled, that means that generator has to demonstrate. And if they don't demonstrate, that means it will face huge amount of penalty. Second thing is, this power will come into the market, and this power is huge market, huge volume, roughly something around 10 to 15,000 megawatt. That's the kind of volume that is there. Second element is, which I am working for last, I think 1 year. I think Mehta is here. I keep on taking weekly meeting with all these generators. And this capacity is a very low-hanging fruit in the grid, and wherein we need support of the state. Because what happens is, the central generating stations, they are able to manage their plant, maintain their plants to a greater extent, and they are able to give me to the extent of the full capacity. State plants, they are not able to do O&M properly because they don't have the money to do it. It's not their fault as such. They are not getting paid, and they don't have money to do a proper O&M. And that is how most of the plants, I don't see them going up to the full capacity. So there is a differential between the maximum capacity and the capacity that is actually being delivered by these state plants. And this capacity is somewhere around 10 to 11 gigawatt. It's not less. And if we are able to harness this, probably we will not have shortage in the next 2 to 3 years also, sir. Of course, when I started this monitoring, at that time it was around 16 gigawatt. Now it has come down to around 10 to 11. So we are trying to see and trying to address their issues to some extent, whatever we can do from the center. But definitely larger has to be coming from the state government and the state-owned GENCOs as well. So these are the 2 things probably they can, in a shorter duration, they will be able to do this. Next year, we are expected to gain around somewhere around 15 gigawatt of coal-based, that is 24-25, and some coming from, and 2,700 megawatt will be coming from the PSP. And roughly 1 gigawatt from hydro, and roughly 1.5 gigawatt from nuclear. So something like 20 gigawatt we will be adding up. This should take care of my non-solar peak hours next year, 24-25. But definitely we are on the tightrope, sir. Any slippages means we might slip.
Sir. Yeah, you can identify yourself, sir.
Sir.
Hold on. Can you identify yourself? Yes, please.
Yeah. My name is Prakash. I'm from Titan Company. I have 2 points to make. One is, the whole conference is on net zero. So India is committed to become net zero by 2070. I'm asking you not as from the CEA, but as a thought leader in the energy sector. Is there any collective thought at the central government for sector-specific reduction of emissions and how to resolve some of the issues that they are facing? For example, let us take the automobile sector. We had LPG, CNG, and EV, etc. The kind of success we have seeing in EV, we are not seeing so much in LPG or CNG like that. There may be some issues around that. So, is there any thought at the central government to see that what are the issues in different sectors and how to prepare them to adapt to newer technologies, and not just from the energy point of view, but to help them adapt to, because some sectors may be finding it very difficult.
Okay,
some sectors may be easy to adapt, but we need to provide the support.
I've got your point. Basically, see, when we are talking about the entire government as such, we do take about the concerns of the other sectors as well. But definitely, we are at this moment of time, if you ask me as a CA, then we are concentrating on the power sector and how quickly we are able to contribute better in the net zero, achievement of the net zero of the government. And that is how we have accelerated the pace of addition of RE, etc. I mean, whatever measures, or if energy efficiency or anything in that space, we are trying to do that.
Sir, second one is very short.
Excuse me, can we do it over lunch?
Sure,
One sec, hold on. We are 1.5 hours behind schedule. And so I'm going to request, unless it's a very important question for, of course, we all want everyone to share it. Let's do it after lunch. Soni Saab, you have a serious question, go ahead. We can't stop you.
Nothing serious, sir.
अरे यार आपको कौन रोक सकता है? शुरू करो.
ऐसा opportunity भी क्यों छोड़ा जाए?
करो sir, बोलो तो सही.
Sir, एक है इधर that 2 points I have. First point.
Into the mic.
Yeah, first point is you said that you are issuing order that anything which is not requisitioned should go to the market. Then otherwise you will not get the capacity charge. This is the kind of a construct. I see a serious problem in that. The problem is for every plant to know in every 15 minutes how much is left, what he should bid, so much decision making, my trembling hand in putting the value, it doesn't work. That's the, I'll just come to that.
Sir, we have already made that mechanism. Don't worry about that.
Just मेरा बात सुन लीजिए. Same objective will be achieved if you make them go through SCD and then you couple to the market. Otherwise, theoretically, they have to be God to know everything. This is just one point. Think it over.
There are two differences in this. One is the SCD that you are talking is simply in the half hour. That means 1.5 hours segment of from the time of delivery. What I am talking now is even in the day ahead as well. Because these power, they will be bidded out in the day ahead. So I want volume increase in the day ahead.
Okay.
Probably it's such
okay. The other point, the 3 points which was coming up, and it's already discussed once. One is development of RE market. Second is must run condition. Third is the price which solar will get in the market. And negative price. And all these issues are interlinked. And I don't see any other way out other than making it two-part and variable cost of solar being brought down less than thermal.
I have some serious reservation on the two-part as well, which I will not discuss now.
So can we fight over lunch?
Thank you.
लड़ाई लड़ लेंगे lunch पे क्या करें? Ladies and gentlemen, I have good news for you. We are going for lunch. The not so good news is you only have 40 minutes to finish lunch, or rather 35 minutes, and come right back because you have a lot of stuff to gather and we've got some fantastically exciting sessions ahead. Those of you who want to come here and sleep, I challenge you to sleep in the next session. Take care.